Tension on deck.
Hey, good afternoon, Ron. What's going on?
How are you?
67 degrees here. I don't even know what snow looks like. I could have a snowball fight if I wanted to right now.
Oh, you gotta rub it in. I can barely move. I could barely move. It's been a rough week. You flew out the day of the storm, right? You flew out
Day
just in
before the
time.
storm. Yep.
Oof,
Yeah,
you got out of here just in time. Got a couple of feet of
that's it.
snow. Had fun with that, and we just had another 3 inches today. So I was out
That's
shoveling after
crazy.
John and Eric's show this morning.
Nice.
But a lot going on here with snow, with ice, with everything else. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. But I guess first we will open it up with some more bad news, some sad news. We have the passing of police officer William Jeanette or Janae. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. Originally from the 3-4 precinct, citywide PBA trustee. He's also a United States Navy veteran, and he was the founder of PAPA, which is the police organization providing peer assistance. We talk about mental health and wellness and well-being with the NYPD, and PAPA is a peer organization that is very involved. The job doesn't get involved with it when you're involved with PAPA, so they don't know what's going on with you. And so it's a very important organization that he founded. His funeral will be tomorrow up in the Riverside Memorial Chapel on 160 West 76th Street in Manhattan. So rest in peace, Officer Janae. Thoughts and prayers to your family, your friends, your coworkers, and the organization that he started is doing great work and means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you think about a person that had the hindsight to, think about how the job treats you, and maybe there's resources out there that should not be associated with the job, even though they're technically with the job, but to be able to, give resources and references and places where people can go and not have the job involvement. It was a great move. It was really helpful. And to this day, right, it has saved a lot of people. So, kudos to him. I see he's a U.S. Navy veteran, so service all around to the people, and somebody that really cared about everybody that worked in the NYPD, and I'm sure other departments have picked up on what he has done. So, legend, and God rest his soul, and my prayers and thoughts go out to his family.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, uh, it's just more sad news keeps going on and on. So let's move on from that to some good news. Some good news happening over the weekend, right? Or this past week. All right, let's talk about it. The men's U.S. hockey team, gold medal game. First time they medaled at all since 2020. It's the first gold medal since the Miracle on Ice versus the USSR, right? The old Soviet Union back in 1980. Miracle on Ice. Did you get a chance to watch the game?
Oh, me? Yeah. And the only bad thing about that game was getting up early at 8 o'clock to watch it. Other than that, it
Yes.
was a great game, man. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into into a little more specifics because of the really historic nature of the game. Let's also give congratulations and a big shout out to the women's U.S. hockey team, who also won the gold medal and won it in the same fashion, beat Canada in overtime 2-1. Another amazing game. I caught that game as well. So kudos and congratulations to the women's team. Women's USA hockey has been doing phenomenal. They're 8 for 8 in the eight. They've been in the past. Well, they've been in 8 Olympic games. They've medaled in all 8 games. Right, 3 gold medals, 4 silver medals, and 1 bronze. So they have a phenomenal program, and so kudos to the U.S. hockey program, both male and female.
Yeah, and also I know we'll talk about it, but the 2 Hughes brothers, right? Their mother was actually a winner of I think a silver medal when she played for the U.S. hockey team. And what I really found was humorous was somebody, I think it was on Facebook or Twitter, had posted that had Canada become the 51st state in America, they would have been gold medalists too. So.
Well, we'll just leave that one alone. We'll leave that one alone. And so, yeah. So there's a picture of the Hughes brothers, right? Jack and Quinn. Jack Hughes is a New York Devil, right? He made that goal, that gold medal goal. Now, we can't show the actual video of any of the games for copyright reasons. We're not allowed on YouTube. On X, you can do pretty much anything and you won't get in trouble. But on YouTube, you'll have what's called a copyright strike against the channel, against the Finest Unfiltered channel. And we're at over 122,000 subscribers strong. Thanks to everybody for watching and subscribing. We really appreciate the support, but we will wind up with a copyright strike where they will, demonetize. They can actually take down the show. We wind up having to edit it out afterwards. So anybody watching the recorded episode, and for those who don't know, we actually wind up having more views on the recorded episode, maybe because we're drive time and dinner time when we go live, but we have thousands upon thousands of views that appear after, and so that they get the same show. I'd rather not play the video and then edit it out right after the show and hope we don't get caught, because it's not worth it. But here's a still shot of that goal in overtime, 3-on-3 hockey. An amazing feat. Jack Hughes in the third period takes a high stick, knocks out 2.5 of his teeth. Right? They get a double minor penalty, 4 minutes on the power play. They didn't score, but Canada didn't get a chance to score either. So that penalty was huge. So unlike soccer, where they go down when somebody breathes too heavy near them, and then they lay on the ground looking for the card, what does Jack Hughes do? He gets back up, gets back into that game, bleeding, bloody, gotta be painful, getting your teeth literally knocked out and broken. Gets out and gets involved, and phenomenal work. They take the puck down. They steal the puck from the Canadians, take it down. A great pass over to Jack, who shoots it across under the goalie's leg into the corner. Gold medal goal. Just phenomenal hockey. Only, I believe, 1.5 minutes into overtime, 2 minutes into overtime. So just a great moment. It's funny. I was watching it with my little daughter and trying to explain to her what was going on, and then we start, yelling. And my wife's like, "What happened?" Because it was still early and she was upstairs while I was watching the game. But it was phenomenal. And don't forget, we wouldn't have even gotten there without his brother Quinn. His brother Quinn also got an overtime goal in the semifinals to put the U.S. up 2-1 and put them into the finals. So, you know, just a great hockey family. Very, very humble young man. When you hear him speak in all the press conferences immediately following the game and ever since, and they've been partying hard like hockey players do. And I've been around hockey players. My daughter works for the Islanders, and so I've been to some events with the hockey players, and those gentlemen, they're down to earth, they're real people, and they like to party. So these gentlemen have been partying, but every time they get in front of a camera, they're humble. They're all about the United States, patriotism, being proud to be Americans and representing the USA. They draped themselves with the flags. Nobody was taking knees. Nobody was turning around. They were proud to put those medals on. They weren't talking politics. When politics came up, they said sports should not be political. Let's keep it to what it is. It's about being proud Americans, playing for USA, and representing the United States of America. So, people try to politicize it still, and we could talk about that for a second, but, what do you think? I'm rambling. I love it.
No, just unbelievable play. I was surprised. I mean, I actually had to text my stepson Andrew to get a confirmation on it why there were 3-on-3 in overtime. But I understand that's Olympic rules, so
Yeah.
that opens up a lot of ice. And yeah, I mean, when Hughes got the puck and he took that shot, I mean that was phenomenal. I know he's a devil, which I'm not going to hold that against him because we're all Americans when we're playing on against the Canadians. But yeah, it was a phenomenal game. I was happy to get up. I definitely had to take a nap on Sunday after that because that 8 o'clock rise was a little bit early for me. So
Yeah.
I'm usually up early, but I guess all the excitement knocked me out. When you get
You're an
older.
early riser. I have never been. I have to with 2 young kids, but so yeah, I didn't mind getting up early, knowing that the game was on, and had to compete and explain to my daughter why we couldn't watch, Paw Patrol and Coco Melon because Daddy wanted to watch the gold medal hockey game. And yeah, 3-on-3 hockey. There's no shootout. It's just 20-minute periods of overtime. And so, they were going to play until somebody scored a goal. And so, phenomenal job. And again, they give all credit where credit is due. Everybody's going to remember Jack Hughes for that gold medal. But again, they would not have been there. Again, his brother, Quinn, in the semifinals, overtime goal. The whole team playing throughout the whole series, 6 for 6, right? But how about Connor Hellebuck? With this goal that he saved, wide open net in the third period, and he spins and puts the stick behind him and catches that puck on the neck of his goalie stick and prevents Canada from going up with what would have been probably would have been the gold medal goal right there, allowing them to go into overtime. What an amazing job he did, not just on this save, but I pulled this off of somebody's Instagram account, Jets Nation .ca. So I took it off of his. Just look at these stats. 5 games, 5-0. Goals allowed, an average of 1.18, 96% save. He's got the gold medal. In the gold medal game, 42 shots on goal. He saved 41. That's just amazing. It's just amazing. It's an amazing job. And I just can't say enough about it. I've always watched hockey in passing. My daughter's gotten me into it more and more. She's been a diehard Islanders fan since she's a kid, and then she's worked with them. She actually, she works with them now. So we always talk hockey, and she made sure she called me and said, "You watching the game?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I'm watching the game." And then, so it's a proud moment, and they're taking the photos after on the on the ice, and we showed that team picture. And then there was a heart-wrenching moment. In all of this exuberance, the team members took out Johnny Gaudreau's jersey, and he played for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And back in August of 2024, for those who don't know and aren't hockey fans, him and his brother's name, Matthew. His brother's name was Matthew. Were in New Jersey for his sister's wedding, and they were on bicycles, and they got struck and killed, both of them, by a drunk driver. And so he was a phenomenal hockey player. Everybody says he would have been on Team USA with this team and part of this team. So the brotherhood of hockey is amazing. And I'll touch on another part of brotherhood in a second. I don't have a graphic for it, but everybody knows about it. For bringing out Johnny Gaudreau's jersey, skating around. It was his teammate, I forget his teammate's name, who was doing it. Skating around the ice with Johnny Gaudreau's jersey, honoring him so that he could be there with them for the moment. And then going up into the stands and taking out his two children. And his wife had announced his youngest child that she was pregnant with his youngest child just a couple of days after he was killed. So that child never even got to know his father. So these two kids were brought out on the ice, and you can see them. I can't zoom in, but one of them is right to the left of his jersey, and then the other child is also to the left. So just amazing sportsmanship, amazing brotherhood, and it actually choked me up a bit.
Yeah, just to go back to Connor for a minute, he's also going to get I believe, the Congressional Medal of Freedom by the
Presidential
president.
Medal of Freedom. Yeah, it was announced last night.
And
Yep.
they actually all voted, and agreed to it. So, I mean, here's a guy that, stood in goal and was able to, help this team get through it, because without him, and he's a big man too. He's like 6'2", I think, over 200 pounds. So big man, and he probably blocks a lot of the goal with his body himself. But yeah, did a phenomenal job. I've been watching the Rangers since I was a kid with Eddie Jockman, and I'm sorry to say, I think Ron Duguay is doing really, really bad today. I think he has cancer, so prayers go out to him. But watching hockey since I was a kid, so I was always excited to watch the games, and then go to to the family was was phenomenal. I mean, I think the mother and father were in the stands. They had the children, and they brought the kids out on the ice. A touching moment to include them. And like you said, the team is not even about themselves. It was all about everybody else. How they felt for the country, how they felt for the children. So I mean, like John Latanzio was saying, it was absolutely such a class act. I mean, you have to give them kudos, and they were a phenomenal job all around.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, they went and they saw the president yesterday, and then they were invited to the State of the Union last night. And like you said, Conor Hellebuyck, he's going to be awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is given to some sports athletes, actors, and others. So that was announced by President Trump last night. And just briefly, everybody's bitching and complaining. Well, everybody that on the blue side, not the red, white, and blue side, is complaining because Kash Patel was there in the locker room celebrating with them afterwards, and actually called the president on his phone to speak to them, which was not a scheduled or planned phone call. The president even said that during his phone call. And people are complaining that he's there. And listen, first of all, every president has sent representation, and especially high-level security people, to the Olympic Games everywhere around the world. Kash Patel went. Kash Patel also is a lifelong hockey enthusiast. He plays on an adult hockey team. So he was living in the moment. He was invited in by the players. I have zero problem whatsoever with Kash Patel being there, number one, representing our country for security reasons, because number one, it's always a threat, right? The Olympics is one of the highest threats. And, he's also going to be involved when the next Olympics are, right, in 98 in LA. So I have no problem with that. And I think it's total BS that everybody's making such a big deal that Kash Patel was there and that he came in and he was jumping up and down and drinking a beer, being human with the gold medal U.S. team. What are your thoughts on that?
Dude, if I was there, I would have been the same way. You gotta come on, man. You gotta give me a break. The guy's having a good time. Listen, we all want to be professional all the time, but you know what? There's a time when there's a time to celebrate. And for Kash Patel, for us, I mean, we were jumping here too at home. So yeah. That's what it means to be American. You know what? You don't like it? I mean, listen, I understand why some people will make us think about it, but to me, it's not a legitimate stink. The guy is having a great time and he's enjoying himself and he's celebrating with guys that just won the Olympic gold medal. So I wish I was there. I wish I was Kash Patel's security detail. I would have been jumping probably harder, So good for him.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. All right, we're almost 23 minutes in. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, I see Ro, you're there. How you doing? On Facebook and on X, we have a bunch of people watching on X. I always recommend shoot over if you can. Log in.
Well, hold on. Don't tell them to shoot over. Tell them to come over. You're talking to cops and retired cops here. Shoot over.
Jump over, click over, swipe over to the YouTube channel because the interactive chat, you're able to see what everybody else is saying in the chat. You're able to get involved in the chat with other members of our community. So Ro, John, and a few other people on Facebook, as well as those on X, shoot over, come on to the Finest Unfiltered in YouTube and check us out there and get involved in our interactive chat. So from the ice, we'll go back out to the snow. And, there's been a lot of hype and a lot of talk, rightfully so, about this snowball fight. And we're going to get into whether it was a snowball fight, whether it was an attack, whether it was an assault, whether it was just fooling around that got out of hand. But the NYPD responds over to Washington Square Park in the 6th precinct. There's a scheduled 3rd annual snowball fight because of the large amount of snow that we got. So I guess it's an event that, it's one of these call outs on social media. Come over. We're going to have a great, we're going to have a great big snowball fight. So there was a bunch of 911 calls. The police respond over to there. We're going to show you some information that I just got out off of X today. We're going to, hopefully I can get it to work right, because I have to do it a different way than I normally produce. I got to start working on that. And then we will talk about it. But, just the videos came out immediately, and I'm not going to play all the videos. I'm going to play a video that John McCarry had posted in a minute. But what were your initial thoughts on this, Rob?
Furious. I was pissed off. I think back in the old days, that would have been a full blown out. If you remember what happened in Washington Square Park years ago, right? Remember the guys? Was it Washington Square Park where they covered the shields and they went in there with nightsticks?
Yeah.
And that was the development of maybe CCRB. I think that's when CCRB really took off. But I would have been furious, bro. I would have been, man, I was pissed just watching it. I was ready to jump. That's why you have a nightstick, mace, everything else. I would have been full hands on. I don't know. It would have been bad. And I know it's a different time nowadays with video cameras and everything else, but that's appalling behavior. It's disrespectful. And yeah, I mean, I that's not fun. That's ridiculous. It's a disrespect, and more should have been done. And more it should be done already. There should have been arrests done already. There should have been people marched. They should have been doing the old perp walk and everything else just to set the tone. But this is terrible.
We'll get into our thoughts about what the response should have been in a little bit. Let's talk about what the response was, right? And good evening to you too, Johnny D. How are you, brother?
What's up, brother?
Good to see you over on LinkedIn. Again, Johnny, jump over into YouTube if you can. Get involved in the chat. We'd love to see you over there. But yeah, so Commissioner Tish, she comes out with an initial statement, right? The NYPD is aware of certain videos taken earlier today in Washington Square Park showing individuals attacking cops. I want to be very clear. The behavior depicted is disgraceful and it is criminal. Our detectives are investigating this matter. Okay? We'll talk about in a minute, once we get past this, what we think the response could have and should have been. But once she becomes aware of it, which, listen, there's going to be time is going to be passed. This thing is over and done with before she knows about it. So I'm not going to hold her, saying that she should have done something differently immediately, right? Because she's the police commissioner, right? It's got to work its way up to her. There were people and supervisors and executives on the ground, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But, the unbelievable as this incident was, and we'll compare it to the water buckets of 2019, right? You sent me some info on that, so I pulled a video for that, and we're gonna talk. We'll compare and contrast, but what is our illustrious 2-month in mayor who claims that he's here to work and support with the NYPD? What's his response?
Yeah, right.
He refuses to call mob launching snowballs at cops a criminal act. Says it just looks like a snowball fight. Just looks like a snowball fight. Now, I had said this on John and Eric's show this morning because they touched on this topic at the end after they had an interview. A fight involves two or more combatants. These police officers were not involved in a snowball fight. These police officers were being pelted, they were being chased down. It was just, you know, let's watch. Let me find it. Things are a little messed up on me today. Right? So here's the video that John McCarry had put out, and it'll incorporate statements from the mayor with actual portions of the video. I'm not going to play the video; is like 7 minutes long. Hopefully, most of you have seen it, but let's just take a look at this video.
Agree with Commissioner Tisch that what happened in Washington Square Park with these snowballs was criminal, and how can you take steps to prevent something like this doesn't happen again?
So I've seen videos of kids throwing snowballs at members of the NYPD in Washington Square Park. And first I want to say that officers have been on the front line of helping our city respond to this blizzard. They have been keeping New Yorkers safe, and they have also been at the heart of our efforts of digging New Yorkers' cars out of these kinds of conditions and ensuring that our ambulances, our MTA buses can keep functioning across this city. They and our entire city workforce deserve to be treated with respect. The only person in our city's workforce who deserves to be treated with a snowball is me.
And on the snowball incident, are people overreacting, you think?
You know, I'll leave it to others to share their opinions, but I've shared mine.
Mr. Mayor, I want to follow up on the snowball incident. The head of the PVA says that the people who were involved in attacking the police officers should be charged criminally with assault on a police officer. I wonder if you agree with that, if those people can be identified.
Yeah, I don't. From the videos that I've seen, it looks like a snowball fight.
And then on the snowball incident, did the NYPD officers face any injuries?
I think that there were two officers who were facing lacerations on their face.
Call for prosecution of those who pelted them?
Look, I've seen the videos of this snowball fight. I think that it was a snowball fight.
Okay, so I loaded up the wrong video. Talk about your thoughts on that. I'm going to try and get up a copy of the video of the snowball fight.
Well, I agree. Like you said in the chat earlier today, right? It takes a couple people to be involved in a snowball fight, right? When you were a kid, you took teams up, right? One side was, against the other side. Now here, these officers just were completely taken off guard. They were just, pelted upon with these snowballs, not expecting it. Guys ran up on them on the back of them and smashed them in the back of the head with the snow and ice. So I really don't understand how this is defined as a snowball fight. Okay, this was not set up to be. That this was a snowball attack, in my opinion. These are two officers walking through Washington Square Park, and they're pelted and snowballs thrown upon them. So they didn't even have it. First of all, they didn't even know that they were going to be involved in this snowball fight, and they weren't given the opportunity to, do anything. You have a gang of kids and possibly adults throwing snowballs at somebody, and they were throwing it at other people, right? So, they were throwing at innocent people walking in the park. So, this is clearly not a snowball fight, and to classify that as such is just an excuse to not criminally prosecute people. Unfortunately, it happened in Manhattan, so I don't know who's going to be criminally prosecuted. Can they be charged? Yeah, the police officers can go out there and arrest people and charge them, but that's a whole nother story. But the fact that he himself, the mayor, right, of the city of New York, in charge of the police department, said officers were injured. So now you have injuries from lacerations on the face, from snowballs, ice balls, whatever the case, there's injuries, right? And if you, and I guess we can get into penal law later on, but if you remember, what could be a weapon? Anything could be a weapon, right? A pencil could be a weapon. A water bottle, anything can become a weapon. And once you cause an injury with that weapon, that's a felonious assault. So, and I have reason to believe that it's even higher. There's more to that. I would even say that to me, it's a riot because you have violent, tumultuous activity. You have 10 or more, and they cause either cause damage or an injury, and they cause a physical injury. So I would even charge him with riot. But our mayor wants to say that there's nothing happened. Now, this is what I would say. What happens if the mayor pulled up in front of Gracie Mansion, got out of his car, and a gang of people started throwing snowballs at him and forced him to run into Gracie Mansion? What do you think his security detail would do? Right? They would go in, they'd be locking up people, they're pushing people back. So I mean, it's apples and oranges here, but he's trying to make it like it's nothing when it was something. So it's appalling. It really is. You're muted. Ron, you're muted.
All right, sorry, I muted it while I was looking for the video. So I'm gonna share my screen and show an ABC News report. So I'm not 100% sure, but I see that it's showing the video. So let's take a look for those who haven't seen it, or just to show exactly what we're talking about. Okay.
To a big controversy out there. It involves New York cops repeatedly getting hit by snowballs by a crowd of people at Washington Square Park in Manhattan. The NYPD commissioner and the head of the police union both calling it criminal. And Mayor Mamdani today is down playing all this, saying it's just a snowball fight. But the NYPD taking this very seriously, and within the last hour, releasing pictures of two men they're now looking for. NJ Burkett, live in Washington Square Park with what's going on here. NJ?
That's right, Bill. Mayor Mamdani is at odds tonight with the PBA and his own police commissioner. As you said, an investigation's going forward. Video is being analyzed, and two people are now wanted for questioning. All of this in connection with the incident that, as you said, the mayor is downplaying. This is the way it started out, with groups of teens and older college students hurling snowballs at one another during the blizzard in Washington Square Park. This is how it ended, with New York City police officers pelted with snow and ice and practically chased from the park by a raucous mob. Two officers were struck in the face and head. No one was arrested. The city's police unions are demanding a criminal investigation.
This was disgraceful. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a game. It was a vicious attack, an assault on two New York City police officers that landed them in the hospital.
NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch posted in social media, quote, "I want to be very clear. The behavior depicted is disgraceful and it is criminal. Our detectives are investigating this matter." The department released photos of two people this afternoon wanted for questioning. But Mayor Mamdani downplayed the episode after being asked about it multiple times.
I can just tell you from the video I saw, it looked like kids at a snowball fight. Look, I've seen the videos of this snowball fight. I think that it was a snowball fight.
And the mayor does not believe anyone should be charged.
I don't. From the videos that I've seen, it looks like a snowball fight.
Rahul Nag was there. He told us that it started off as harmless fun, but escalated when several young people began tossing snow from the roof of the park's restrooms. The officers were confronted after they arrived to investigate.
It wasn't supposed to be violent. It started out as a very fun thing to do, and then it just escalated. Some people were confused. they thought they weren't NYPD, they were ICE, or they were working with ICE.
Is it right for somebody to throw a snowball at a police officer?
It is definitely not right. It is definitely not right to throw snowballs at a police officer. People should be more cautious about it.
Well, Governor Hochul agrees, saying, quote, "It is never acceptable to throw anything at a police officer, full stop." While speaking at his press conference today, Mayor Mamdani praised the NYPD, saying they should be respected. If anybody deserves to be hit with a snowball, he said, it's me. Live tonight in the Village, NJ Burkett, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
So, I mean, all right, there you have that. I mean, it's appalling. It's really, it's terrible.
I mean, what kind of excuse to say that it was ICE? They thought it might, that guy, I don't know, that was bullshit right there.
Yeah,
But come on.
Again, I didn't see. It was a good news report. I'm glad I caught it. I found it quick for everybody and was able to throw it up. But I thought it was part of John's video. But John's video was just on Mamdani and his nonsense answers. To be perfectly honest with you, you're 2 months in, and like we mentioned at the opening of the show last week, the news broke that he's not going to hire the additional 5,000 members of the NYPD. Not surprised at that. Spoke about that last week. Wasn't surprised. He never ran on saying that he was going to increase it. That's something Eric Adams did on the way out the door, just so he can say that he did it and he can blame Mamdani for not doing it. Mamdani had always said in his debates and in his platform that he was not going to increase the size. He felt that the size of the NYPD was adequate, and he was going to reallocate duties of the NYPD to other agencies, especially his Department of Community Safety, which is something that still isn't, is still being looked at. And they didn't even have proper, intel, and they weren't ready to prepare to implement anything, even though they had time to get it ready. But that's another story in itself, right? But now you're 2 months in, and everybody is talking about this. All the politicians are coming on and either aren't saying anything, right? If they're, our city council isn't speaking up. Some city council members, but they're the conservative, city council members are coming out and, condemning this behavior and whatnot. We have, I'll throw up a video real quick. New York State Assemblyman, this is a New York State Assemblyman. Ari, now I'm drawing a blank. Hold on. I'm a little discombobulated with the stuff today. Again, a last minute get together, putting together. But I'm sorry, Ari Brown. And he covers part of Long Island and a bit of Far Rockaway. Let's hear what he has to say. I wasn't very familiar with him. I saw this post and I just thought it was, it says a lot about what's going on.
With ICE were hurled at NYPD officers during the blizzard in Washington Square Park. That's assault, plain and simple. And it didn't happen in a vacuum. Ever since the George Floyd aftermath, radical politicians and activist movements have systematically stripped police of their authority, vilified them publicly, and created the environment where mobs feel empowered to attack officers without fear of consequences. The message was clear. Criminals are protected and police are political targets. Mamdani and his Democrat socialist communists have turned police into the enemy while handcuffing them from doing their job or defending themselves. Officers now hesitate, not because they lack courage, but because they know the system will punish them faster than the people assaulting them. And to my Republican colleagues, we've had the hearings, endless hearings, press conferences, statements, but no accountability until people actually start going to jail, especially through federal prosecution when local authorities refuse. This will continue.
I'll give that a spot on.
Yeah. No, he's definitely on point there. Understands this is appalling action by the people and against the police officers, and the politicians need to stand up. You need to stand up for the police officers. This something's got to be done.
So this was sent to me. Sorry, guys. I don't know when my daughter's going to remember that on Wednesdays I'm doing my FaceTime, my show, and she tries to FaceTime me. This was sent to me just before the show, and so I'm going to share my screen again. An ex post by Benny Palatzik, and he was a multimedia producer for the Adams administration, and he puts out some information that hasn't been spoken about, as well as some additional video. So let's see if I can get this to go right. All right. So this is his post. All right. These claims have been floating around for 2 days now, and somehow not a single outlet has felt the need to check them against actual footage. What is happening? What has happened? Here is what happened. I'm sorry. First, the NYPD was not shutting down a harmless snow day snowball fight. Officers responded after receiving calls about disorderly conduct around the park. Over the loudspeaker, they told people to enjoy themselves and remain inside the park. One officer can clearly be heard encouraging the kids to have fun. They stood back and monitored the situation. And just for clarity, we're going to show the video. That officer is a deputy chief that we see at many public order events, Timmy Boudet. So then the snowball starts flying, but not just light powder tossed between friends, but hardened snow and chunks of ice aimed directly at the officers. Second, yes, there were kids involved. There was also grown adults in the crowd. Some of them were not calming things down. They were egging it on, urging people to throw ice at uniformed officers. Third, these were not soft, playful snowballs. Many were large, compacted chunks of ice, some the size of a football. Ice like that can break bones and split skin. It did. Officers were hospitalized with facial lacerations. The footage is available for anyone who wants to watch it, but members of the press declined to describe what is plainly visible because it may hurt Mamdani politically. That stops being journalism. It becomes advocacy. So let's watch the videos.
You go back in. Everything's fine. All right, relax. Do your thing. All's good. Do your thing. We're good.
Now that right there is Deputy Chief Tim Boudet from the Manhattan South Borough. As you can see, he's telling people, right, have fun. Enjoy yourselves.
All right. You go back in. Everything's fine. All right, relax. Do your thing. All's good. Do your thing. We're good. All right.
Now watch this big chunk that comes and the officer deflects before it hits her in the face. That's not a snowball. So
I mean, I can see where Timmy is trying to tell him, all right, go back and if you listen, if you're gonna have a snowball fight between people that are in the park and you voluntarily went in there and you want to have a snowball fight, all right, fine, have a snowball fight, have at it. But to have a snowball fight with police officers, no, that's first of all, they're not engaged in a snowball fight. They're there to respond to the 911 call. Then they're probably there responding to the request by the officers. You know, I mean, I saw them that one of them was putting it over the radio, so they probably responded to that. And then that doesn't mean you could start pelleting and crushing all the police officers. It's ridiculous, you know. I mean that's an assault. That's an assault. That's the bottom line. What if it was water bottles, or what if it was other things? I mean, you know, that's an assault. So, yeah, 1013. I agree, Hunter.
all right.
You know?
So, which for those who don't know, it's a police officer needs emergency assistance. So, but let's before we talk about what we think Timmy Boudet or any other supervisor, because we don't know exactly where the chief was because those videos are not in the same location, right? So Chief Boudet and the inspector that was there and the other team of people that were behind him, I don't know exactly where they were when the other officers were being pelted and basically chased down the street into their vehicles, where I don't know since when do we retreat, but, you know, that's what they did, right? So we heard what Commissioner Tisch said. It was repeated on the news article. You heard what Mayor Mamdani said. So let's see what now. The PBA, the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, the Sergeants Benevolent Association, and the Detectives Endowment Association all put out statements. I have not seen anything from the Lieutenants Endowment Association or the Captains Endowment Association, which covers captains through assistant chief. I haven't seen any statements from them, but everybody else's statements have been pretty much in line. So we saw Pat Hendry in that news piece and what he had to say, but this is the official written response that came out from the PBA, right? PBA blasts mayor for failure of leadership, responding to attack on police officers. PBA President Patrick Hendry said, the mayor's response is complete failure of leadership. This was not just a snowball fight. This was an assault by adults throwing chunks of ice and rocks that landed 2 police officers in the hospital with head and face injuries. By ignoring their injuries and dismissing the incident, the mayor has sent a disgraceful message to every police officer who served this city and a dangerous message to every person who might attack a police officer in the future. And that's in lockstep with what Assemblyman Brown had also said. Because like you said, Rob, today it's snowball. In 2018 or 2019, it was water and water buckets. And everybody's like, oh, but it's just water. Oh, but it's just snow. Oh, you're overreacting. It's just snow. The mayor openly admitted that 2 officers went to the hospital with lacerations on their faces. Okay? So let's take a look. We keep saying it's assault, and people may not understand. Let's look at what New York State penal law says. All right? The New York State penal law for assault in the second degree on a police officer occurs when a person with intent to prevent a police officer or other specified official, because there's a long list of them that have been added of city workers. So all they need to do is to intend for them to prevent them from performing their lawful duties, causes a physical injury to said officer. This classified as a D felony. The intent must have a specific intent to prevent the officer from performing their lawful duty. So if they're trying to disperse this crowd and keep this crowd calm, they're doing their lawful duties. The action must cause a physical injury, which is defined, and I'm going to give you the definition in a minute. In the New York State, as impairment of physical condition or substantial pain. So you see in one of the videos, the one officer, his whole face and eye is red and swollen. And the mayor admittedly said that 2 officers went to the hospital with lacerations from either ice or rocks that were thrown either inside the snow or independently, right? And then it gives you the definition of an officer and the related charges, right? If the intent to cause a physical injury, it's a more serious, right? So it's a D felony. Let's even say that, because we're talking about Alvin Bragg, right? The Manhattan district attorney, not very pro-police, is more apt to prosecute a police officer than a criminal sometimes. And so let's say that he says, well, they didn't mean to stop the officers from doing their duties. They didn't mean to hurt the officer. Okay. We have assault 3rd degree. It's a class A misdemeanor, right? Intentionally, recklessly, or with criminal negligence causes physical injury to another person. It is the least serious assault charge, but carries penalties up to 1 year in jail, probation, and fines. Right? So you either have to intentionally cause a physical injury, recklessly cause a physical injury, or with criminal negligence using deadly weapon or dangerous instrument. Now, people say, oh, snow's not a dangerous instrument. It's not a deadly weapon. Anything that can cause an injury is a dangerous instrument. Deadly weapons are defined, certain weapons are defined in the penal law, but a dangerous instrument is anything. This mouse is a dangerous instrument. Anything is a dangerous instrument. So, is it being reckless to throw ice and rocks and large chunks of snow with ice and rocks in it? Is that reckless to throw that at the face of a police officer? What says you?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I'm even one for the say that to me that's a riot. I'm sorry. 11 more tumultuous violent activity, cause an injury. I'm saying throw the riot in there as well. So, but yeah, that's definitely an assault. But I mean, are they going to charge it? Probably not. The DA, no. But the police officers can still go and make an arrest. So.
Absolutely. And again, the definition of an injury. Under New York State penal law, physical injury is defined as an impairment of a person's physical condition or substantial pain. It does not require even a doctor's visit, although 2 of them went to the hospital, right? Or lasting damage, but must be more than slight, trivial pain. Ooh, that hurt, A serious physical injury, that's different. That includes risk of death, disfigurement, or health impairment. We're not saying that's what it is, right? But a physical injury is any kind of cut, bruise, swelling, or pain that lasts for a period of time. Impairment of physical condition does not require complete incapacitation. So that officer's swollen cheek and eye, right? What is that? That's a physical impairment. That's an impairment of a physical condition. So, yeah, it's cut and dry here that you have the definitions of assault and physical injury. So, but today's Wednesday. It's a couple of days later. It took him a day to even respond that it's a snowball fight, right? And now it's a couple of days later. So I understand we're having problems with the chat. So I'm going to try and post something. Now it's telling me that YouTube rejected my comment. This usually means that they think it's spam. Try changing it a bit. This podcast YouTube is rejecting it. It's going out on Facebook, but for some reason we're having a problem. We're not getting the comments that we normally get in YouTube. So let's take a look. This is a short video. I'm going to see if Marlon, there's Terry. Terry's giving us a thumbs up.
Terry popped up, yeah.
If anybody can throw us a quick comment and let's see what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's on the computer. Let me try from my phone. Testing. It's working. Seth Adams is working on X. I put it on my phone. It went through on my phone, but it's not showing up in my chat. Doesn't seem to be working. So, yeah, I was wondering. The chat's very, very minimal today. So we're having an issue with the chat. So, not sure what's going on. Let me put this video up and of what Mamdani had to say today.
I've said that what I saw was a snowball fight. It should be treated accordingly. It was one that got out of hand, but that's what it was. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to revise your statement regarding the snowball fight, given that this was not exactly a friendly back and forth snowball fight? The police that were there were not throwing any snowballs. They were getting pelted themselves. And number two, have you considered or would you consider banning these crowdsourcing events because they can and sometimes do get out of hand?
So I'm not going to be banning snowball fights or organized snowball fights.
So he's still calling it just a snowball fight, and it's 2 days later. I tell you, I think we've shown that it is absolutely not a snowball fight. Marlon says it's not posting his comments as well. Sorry, folks. I know we usually have great engagement with our chat. So just keep trying. Maybe it'll come back up. For some reason, Terry Manane got one through at 6:05 p.m. So mine went through on my phone, but it's not posting up. It's not posting up on the board. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on today. Let me see what this is.
Yeah, the fact that the mayor is not supporting the police is just another example of him. You know, I always say defunding. You know, we talked about it earlier where there was, you know, 5,000 officers that he said he wasn't gonna hire, right? And then you talk about one of my good friends, Anthony, sent me a text that, you know, in 3,500 resigning or putting in their papers for the pension, you're talking about, you know, 8,500 less officers than there should be right now. So, I mean, it's crazy. And then he could stand up there and say, "Oh, it was a snowball fight." No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I didn't see any officers. Listen, in a snowball fight, and I've been in them, right? Ron throws a snowball at me. I throw a snowball back at Ron. I didn't see any officers pick up any snow, and I didn't see anybody, any officers throw snowballs. And here's the thing. Had an officer picked up a snowball and hit somebody, what would have happened? That person would have got an injury, and they would have been charging the police officers. Okay, we've seen that in the past when police officers are doing their diligent duty, and they end up getting, arrested for something that they did. So there's a prime example of where the district attorney would turn around and say, "All right, you assaulted a citizen of New York, and we're going to charge you." So I mean, it's just hypocritical completely.
I agree with you 100%. And even watching some of the videos, those two officers while they were retreating, the initial two officers that were retreating, A couple of people that were throwing snowballs at them, they pushed them down into the snow to get them out of the way. What's the first thing that came to my mind? As sad as it is, you know, not even that they should be locking them up, which they should have, but not by themselves because they're so outnumbered and that crowd is getting unruly. But they're going to wind up with CCRBs for pushing that kid in the snow. I'm not going to say kid because they weren't kids. They were grown men. And for pushing that grown man down, I don't know.
Yeah, listen, what happens if they pushed him down and the person hit a rock or something, you know, or hit a tree or slipped and hit a tree? Then they're going to say the officer acted recklessly and caused this person's injury. It would have been completely charged, the officers, for them just trying to protect themselves and get out of harm's way at that time.
Yeah, and so a couple of comments are starting to pop through. So everybody, please keep trying. Don't give up. Keep trying. So One Eye Willie 8601, it's a new viewer to us, I believe. Thanks for coming on board. If you're going to put hands on someone and push them, you have to make that arrest. Normally, I agree with you 100%, but I'm going to say in this situation, there were 3 officers that were retreating from a mob that's lurching ice, rocks, and snowballs, which a snowball, listen, my daughter, 5 years old, whacked me in the face with a snowball yesterday, and it hurt. It hurt. And if she would have caught me another inch up, it would have got me right in the eye, right? And what is she doing? She's just grabbing a little bit of snow. But what's mixed in with the snow? Some of the ice that's been shoveled off to the side, right? She hit my wife the other day and left a mark on my wife's face. So you have all of this going on. Now, if you stop to try and lock up that guy, what do you think is going to happen? Unfortunately, because of the culture of today, I don't think that those officers were in the position to stop and put handcuffs on 2 people and then try and walk them to the van, not knowing how. First of all, I don't know how far away their vehicle was. I don't know how far away more officers were. I don't know that park. I'm not that familiar enough with that park to know. So listen, normally I agree in this situation. I'm not 100% sure what their situation was, what their safety zone was, what their distance was to a safe place, and really how aggravated and you know, out of control that crowd was. So normally,
that's a volatile situation right there. I mean, and that I guess is where we can say we're lucky that they have body worn camera, right? So you could, you know, you take the body worn camera and you look at that person, you can arrest them later on. But at that particular time, with an overwhelming crowd, listen, if you were doing riot control with disorder control or with a strategic response group, right? They don't just rush in ever, right? They usually, well, years ago we used to have mounted, right? So the 10-foot cop would be there, and then they would be able to see it, or you might have an observation post, but somebody can identify that person that's throwing the bottles, that's doing the tumultuous activity, and then what do? They form a line, and they have the arrest team on. They open the line up, and they go in, right? What that individual did there by pushing him down, had he done like you just said, collared him, that would have been a full-blown riot, because what happens is then everybody would have been ripping them, trying to rip that guy away from the police officers, and it would have put the cops in harm's way. So I totally agree. I don't think you're right. Normally you would always say, put your hands on somebody and make the arrest. Absolutely, 100%. But in that particular situation, I don't know if I necessarily would. You know, I would try to identify or whatever. And you have to push that person down and get out of the way, or to leave the area, right? You don't want to get surrounded. Remember, not years ago, 6 or 7 months ago, what John McCarry says, right? Everything that the police officer responds to is a gun run, because you bring a gun with you. And when you have a crowd that big and they surround you and they get your gun, it's a real bad day. So if you have to push yourself your way out of it, justify it. That's all I would say to that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with the officer did at all. The officer did what he had to do. He's trying to get out of there, with the least amount of violence, I guess you would say, right? So it's just, I don't know. Shout out 110 Precinct Community Council, my old command. I'm not sure if that's Al or somebody else on the council. I'm not that familiar with who's on the council anymore, but we appreciate the support. Appreciate you being on here. You're 100% correct. We all need to band together. RDV gives us the blue heart.
Artie.
Sleepy Joe got through. 110 Precinct Council back to blue. 100%. They've always been very supportive of the men and women in the NYPD. So again, thank you very much. So Sleepy Joe is getting through with all of his emojis. I'm not sure if writing is going through. Can you try and write us a note, Joe, a comment, or is it just emojis that are getting through? And thank you very much to the council. I love you guys too, and miss my time there with you. So always appreciate it. But yeah, Sleepy Joe's just getting a whole bunch of emojis through. We're having problems with the chat in YouTube. But here, so I know another picture came out late today with one or two other individuals, but these are two individuals that are wanted by the NYPD, not by the mayor. So I don't know. See, an emoji went up for me.
I think John McCarty was saying also that they're having problems on X also.
But words aren't going through.
I just word through though. I came through.
You just came through with a test. I wrote hi, but it didn't come through, but my thumbs up came through. So obviously, Lily's getting through now. Keep trying, people. Keep trying. We appreciate it. Hi, Lily. Thanks for joining. Always appreciate everything. Yeah, numbers and emojis. So, but yeah, so here's two wanted posters for people that was smashing the offices with stuff. Thanks to Charlie. We appreciate everybody still trying, right? But we talk about it. Like we talk about combatants. We talk about this. We talk about that. Yeah, on X it's working, Ellie. So thank you. But let's see. Let's look at, this is a snowball fight.
Not him.
Get him down to the ground! Get him on the ground! No, get him! Get some more snow! Hurry up! God, help! John! That's what's up, y'all. Good job. You got plastic. Look at you got plastic gloves on. How you gonna play in the snow with plastic gloves? No gloves no more. All right. Put them on. Wait up, here. Blue.
And him. Like a gray?
Yep. Next to you. You want the black one?
That's a snowball fight, right? That's two officers out there and a detective taking a video. A detective taking a video of the snowball fight in Brooklyn North in 2018, right? That's going out and having some fun with the kids in the community. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. They're being playful. The kids are loving it. They're having a human interaction with the police. They're not assaulting anybody. They're not doing anything like that. And then at the end, the detective is handing out gloves to the kids that didn't have gloves. One kid had little rubber gloves on. A couple other kids had no gloves. And the detective was giving out gloves. And I wish the chat was working, because then I would ask the chat how their observation skills were on that video. Because at the end of that video, handing out the gloves.
Yep, that's for you. You want the black one?
Let's see.
Thank you.
Let me see if I go back and find the spot where it really shows him.
Look at you got plastic gloves on.
Hope the chat comes back up. Let's check your observation skills. Tell me who that is, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me who that is. But that's a snowball fight. That's a snowball fight. That's community interactions, right? You don't agree?
Nope. 100% disagree.
So you don't think that the cops could have a playful moment with the kids out there?
No.
Why not?
No. Because I believe that the officers could have been like a referee, like what normal police officers do, right? We're a referee. That we could have been like, all right, you guys have a snowball fight and we'll be on the sidelines and we'll violation or this and that, so that they're keeping their heads up. Does it look good? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, the community loves it. Look at the cops. They're interacting with the kids. It's great. You know, there's other ways to interact, right? But what happens if I'm what happens if I'm a young kid? I'm 17, 18, and I see the young kids throwing snowballs. Hey, you know what? The cops are cool with this. Let's throw a couple snowballs at them, because they're cool. They don't care. It's fine. No, listen. I've been an advocate of all the time that police officers, it's a profession. It's a professional profession, right? So you have to act professionally all the time. Can you interact? Absolutely. Should you be playing basketball? No. Should you be dancing? No. Should you be doing any of these things? No. Okay. There's a time and place. That's why we have community affairs officers. That's why you have the light blue shirts, right? Go play your ball, set up your games at the PAL, and do all the other stuff. The PAL is Police Athletic Leagues. Go do all of that stuff. I think there's a better way to interact. What I do think is this sets the precedent that, okay, now we can throw snowballs at cops. We can do this. We can do that. I totally disagree. Hey, does it look great? Absolutely. Do I want here in Florida? Do I want my local sheriff's office? Well, we have no snow, so we can't do that. But playing basketball? No. I want you driving around. I want you protecting the people playing basketball. Do I want you to go to we have a nice place called Waterside where they have entertainment, where they have a band and everything else. They play, they play cornhole, everything else. Do I want cops doing that? No. I want you to protect me when I'm there. That's how I am. I've always been that way. I've been an advocate that all that BS leads to more BS. All right. When you let the rope out a little bit and you want to pretend that, oh, look, we're humanized. We're just good friends of the community. We're police officers. No, bullshit. You're a police officer. Do your job. I don't see the firemen doing it. I don't see sanitation having snowball fights. All right. Do your job. Know your job. That's it. There's no need. All right. I want you to do what you're sworn to do, to protect and serve. I don't need you playing, everything else and all this other stuff. So, and there's a way to interact. Do it the right way. That's my opinion. I'm sorry.
And I'm going to disagree with you 100%.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm not saying that that's what they should be doing all day, every day, but to stop with those 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, have a little playful moment with them, I have no problem with that. whatsoever. I have no problem with stopping by and engaging with the community. It's part of what we do. Every interaction with the public can't be a negative interaction or at a person's lowest moment, because 99% of the time when anybody interacts with the police, it's at the lowest moment or possibly one of the lowest moments in their life when they need the help of the police. But in order to, foster trust, foster, a relationship with the community, there has to be other times where they see a human side of the police. And it's not just the light blue. It's not just the light blue shirts and the community affairs people that are going to go out there with the rock wall, and they're going to do it at certain events, on block parties and everything else. Stopping and talking to kids in a park, throwing a basketball, throwing a football back and forth, for a few minutes. They didn't spend their whole tour, having a snowball fight. They're not taking off their equipment and having a flag football game, throwing a ball around with a kid a couple of times, playing catch with a kid, throwing a couple of hoops. I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I think it builds community relationships, it builds community trust. And one of the things that we talk about all the time, right, is that the community doesn't understand and doesn't see the human side of policing. They only see the militant side. They only see the enforcement side of policing. It gives a negative connotation to policing because when they see the police are taking away their mommy or daddy. When they see the police are involved in something that is, negative and in a negative time in someone's life. So to have a little playful time like that, I have no problem with that. To have a little playful time, I've done it. I've done it as a cop. I've done it as an executive. I don't think that minimizes me as an authority figure, as someone who needs to take care of business when I take care of business and making sure that the job gets done and gets done professionally. I don't think it's unprofessional to take time out to spend time with the community in a non-enforcement role. And I get what you're saying. We're there to protect and serve. I get that 100%. We're there to be public servants. We're there to make sure that they have a safe environment, that they have that violence isn't being brought upon them, that their quality of life is good by doing enforcement and everything else like that. But it can't always be. It can't always be that everything that they see the cops doing is negative.
First of all, I didn't say that, okay? And I said what I said was that they need to you can interact anytime, okay? And it doesn't have to be a negative interaction. It doesn't have to be a summons. It doesn't have to be an arrest. But you're walking down the street, you can interact. Okay. What I'm saying is you're putting yourself at a tactical disadvantage. That one guy is cowering on the street with his head down. Okay. No, seriously. You're
the other
there
cop is right there, and the cop that's
and
taking
the other cop's
video.
not paying attention. They're not paying attention. Cops were playing basketball. When a cop playing a basketball shooting hoops, hey, somebody just texted me and said the housing cops got suspended for playing basketball. So I mean,
What year was that? That was under knucklehead.
It doesn't. What I'm saying is, I don't. If you want your police officers to do that, that's fine. I don't. That's totally. I'm totally against that. I don't think it fosters anything. I think it diminishes the police officers' respect, and it diminishes their professionalism. All right. It's just because I don't want a doctor walking into me and joking around, say, hey, I'm going to take off both legs instead of one leg and show a little sensibility. No, I want a doctor that comes in as a professional and does the right thing. We're the only profession, right, that seems that we got to play basketball. We got to soften our touch. No, bullshit. I want you out there stopping bad guys. I don't need you playing snowball fights. Hey, you want a referee? You want to talk to the kids? Fine. Snowball fights? Nah. You know what? The bodega around the corner is getting robbed. You're playing ball, right? So I'm sorry. There's a time and place for everything. And to me, that is 100% not the time. You're out there. You're walking up. Well, if I was walking a foot post, I wasn't playing basketball. I wasn't throwing a football or anything else. If a football rolled to my feet, I throw it back to the kid. I'm not in the middle of the street, playing Joe Namath or anybody else. So I'm sorry. I totally disagree. I think there's time for the profession to get back to standards, back to look professional, act professional. Do we need a soft side of police officers? Yeah. When you talk to them, you say, "How's it going, officer?" Yeah, that's absolutely. And I think at this point, the way the past administration, the way Adams has been, the way Mamdani's been, we are soft, right? They let everybody do everything, and this softness leads to the ability for these people to throw snowballs and do everything else. Water bottles during the summer of love, they were throwing water bottles and everything, and because they fear no, any responsibility, or they fear any arrest or anything else. It's time to bring that little bit of fear back a little bit and to start acting a little bit more professional. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. So.
I get that's how you feel, and I'm going to totally disagree, and say that them having a little playful time with 5- and 6-year-olds, I don't see a correlation with the summer of love and throwing bottles and bricks and all kinds of nonsense.
You're misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying
You're
is,
saying
yes,
it's unprofessional to do it, and I
can
disagree.
say interact, but I'm not saying you get into a full-blown snowball fight with them and rolling on the ground. I'm sorry, that it leads to other things. It leads to them.
You're saying that you're saying you can't throw a basketball around, you can't throw a football around for a couple of minutes. Again,
no dancing, no none of that shit, none of that. I'm sorry, no. Do you want to see ESU guys with M4s or MP5s jumping around playing basketball with anybody? No. You're professional guys. They do their job. That's it. Okay. What?
We're not talking about ESU guys with M5s.
No, I'm not saying. What I'm saying is you don't want to see that, right? Wouldn't want to see that. If two guys are on a Hercules deployment, right, and they got their M4s out, and they're going to go play basketball. Well, I'm just saying because they act professional. The ESU guys act professional, and I think that every cop should be acting professional.
Rob, you're talking about guys on a Hercules detail out there for counterterrorism, fully geared up with semi-automatic weapons. I'm not telling them to put their weapon down with an M4 and go. And
I didn't say put their weapon down, but I'm not. I'm saying you're talking about
carrying an M4.
A cop with a gun rolling on the ground playing a snowball fight. Sorry, same thing to me. Doesn't make sense.
All right, we agree to disagree.
Yep, absolutely.
So, all right, let's move on. So we showed the wanted photos, and they should absolutely be arrested, found, identified, and arrested for assault. I think we clearly delineated and showed, the legal justification. And in all honesty, if these guys get arrested, Bregg's not going to charge them. What do you think the chances of Bregg charging them are?
Oh, zero. I guarantee you the DA in the complaint room will just decline to prosecute the case immediately. Right, so you're gonna have to go and release the person. So I totally agree that they're not going to do anything. So, but that doesn't preclude us from doing it. But I agree.
Lily's getting through on the chat.
Yeah, a couple people are. I see now. Yeah.
And sever the tether is we can't copy the link off of that out of the chat though. I'm sorry. And Lily says one perp has a mask on. Can they also be charged with face mask violations too? I know Nassau County has that. They're never going to charge that. It's in the weather. He's wearing the, what do you call that thing? Balaclava?
Yeah, balaclava or something.
Something like that. I never get that word right. I always wind up saying like baklava. I'm going Greek on you.
Yeah.
They're never going to charge that. They're never going to charge that disorderly conduct. 3 or more persons wearing a mask. That's been over. Oh, even before COVID, nobody was charging that. But like Kenneth Brown is saying on Facebook, the more they get away with it, the more emboldened they become. 100%. Agree with you 100% on that. They doing things like this, and it just keeps escalating and escalating. And just like the assemblyman said, and just like Rob said, today it's a snowball. It's a rock tomorrow. It's a Molotov cocktail. It's just a bottle. They were throwing, right, at the demonstrations, they're throwing at frozen water bottles at ICE, right? Frozen water bottles. Well, that could kill somebody. A frozen water bottle could kill somebody. You hit somebody in the back of the head, knock them down, they hit their head, they crack their skull open, over, right? You hit them in the temple, over. So this is what we've been saying, and this has been going on. So let's go back to even before the Summer of Love, right? What were they doing back then? Right?
Water buckets, right? Yeah.
Let's take a look at a 2019 video. I'm getting some feedback, Rob. 2019 video on when the officers were being attacked with water and buckets, not just water, but water buckets. So let's watch this video, and then we'll talk about the response after that, how it differs than it does today.
Been charged with numerous counts of criminal mischief and harassment for his part in one of the recent bucket water attacks on NYPD officers.
This as President Trump takes aim at Mayor de Blasio, calling on him to take action. CBS 2's Valerie Castro has more.
Police announced an arrest following the release of this video. Two officers standing near a crosswalk in the Bronx are soaked with buckets of water Tuesday night. Now police say Robert Perez, one of the men in the video, was arrested and charged with numerous counts of criminal mischief and harassment. The arrest comes after President Trump unleashed criticism against Mayor de Blasio on social media, tweeting, quote, "What took place in NYC with water being tossed on NYPD officers was a total disgrace. It is time for NYC Mayor Bill de Blasio to stand up for those who protect our lives and serve us all so well." The mayor responded saying,
I want to make it clear here. Anybody who interferes with the work of a police officer is going to be charged and is going to suffer the consequences.
The mayor also touted the success of community policing, but some wonder if more training is needed to make sure it remains a success while not minimizing an officer's authority in the communities they serve.
When I first saw the videos, I was appalled. I was shocked that the officers allowed this amount of activity to occur.
Dr. Alfred S. Titus Jr. is a John Jay criminal justice professor and former NYPD detective. He says officers need to be mindful of what behavior they allow themselves to be a part of.
In the future, when you have an emboldened individual who now feels that they can behave this way towards the police.
The Sergeants Benevolent Association continues to condemn these incidents and points out so far they have only involved water, but the SBA warns next time it could be something more sinister. In Harlem, Valerie Castro, CBS 2 News.
One man in the Brooklyn incident turned himself into police. At least 4 more suspects are.
So, you see a different response, though, even though de Blasio was a horrible mayor, was not pro-police, but even in this instance, he was kind of pigeonholed into coming out and saying that he has to support the police and that it won't be tolerated and that everyone should be charged for anything that they do. So there's a different tone right there, even though we say that Mamdani is de Blasio 2.0, right, or 3.0. And, de Blasio is just not backing down from it's just, it's just a snowball fight. Again, he tripled down. I'm not even going to say double down because he had 2 press conferences yesterday where he said it. So he tripled down today on another press conference when he was questioned about it, saying, I've said it before. I've said it in public forums. I've said it in private conversations. I think this is just a snowball fight. When he asked if he should, there was another part of the press conference that I had seen where he was asked, about his confliction with the police commissioner, Tish, where she says it's criminal and it's heinous. And he says, again, just that he thinks it's a snowball fight and that he looks forward to continuing to work with the police commissioner on reducing crime and keeping the city safe. Again, one of the Mayor Mamdani non-answers of deflection.
Yeah, I mean, de Blasio do that because, like Kevin Mannion saying, de Blasio could be a tough guy because he knew the DA wasn't going to follow through in the long run. Absolutely could be, but you know what? If at least he gave the perception that he was a tough guy. Mamdani's not giving anything. Mamdani's just caving right in and saying, "Oh, if anybody deserves to get hit with a snowball, it's me." Yeah, you deserve to get hit a lot more than a snowball, bro. But at this point,
careful.
At this point, it's ridiculous that he doesn't stand up for the police. Police officers got assaulted. Whatever. There's injuries to police officers. Come on, if somebody hit Zoran's family and there was a laceration, or hit Zoran and he got a laceration, you think it was just a snowball fight? And what was the water? There was just a water balloon fight? It was just a hydrant fight?
No, they were throwing buckets after they dumped the water. They were hitting them with the bucket.
Exactly. No, I'm saying that's what they would say. That's what they would say. It was just a water bucket. It was just like that. Yeah, you can remember airmail coming off, housing developments and water buckets. And I remember one time a toilet came off, and I think a spackle bucket killed one of our police officers, if I'm not
100%.
mistaken. So
Yeah.
come on, what's next?
100%. Yeah. So I agree with you 100%. And the department actually, one of the things that we talk about and that people in the chat say constantly, I really wish we had the chat with us today on this issue, because I think it's a big issue. I think that, I don't know that many, if any, in our chat would disagree that this is an assault on a police officer. I don't think, I can think, there's some people out there that aren't pro-police and are in our chat and everything else, and we welcome opposition, right? As John says, as Eric says all the time, opposition meets opportunity, and it's a First Amendment platform, so we allow you to speak, even if you don't agree with what we have to say. As you just saw, Rob and I don't always agree either. That's fine, but anybody with common sense, it's not just a snowball. It's not just a snowball. But back in 2019, the police department put out a memo and gave guidance. And this is the point I took a minute to get to, but the chat always says, the job doesn't give you guidance. The job isn't telling you what to do. Somebody suggested in the chat last week that we do a show, right, on what we think cops should do with these auditors, how they should handle these auditors that come into the precinct, with their First Amendment auditing, that they're allowed to videotape, get up in your face and do all this stupid crap, really trying to entice you to do something to violate their First Amendment rights so that they can sue. That's all it's about. They just want a lawsuit. They want clicks and a lawsuit. That's all they want. And they suggested that we try to give them some guidance because the police department's not, right? I don't know what kind of guidance we could give with department policy and so forth. But back then, the police department came out with an internal memo, right? And it was obtained by CNN. And the department outlined how officers should react when involved in incidents such as being doused with water while on duty. According to the memo, and I don't have a copy of the memo, but this was in an article that you sent. According to the memo, the charges applicable when an officer is doused or sprayed with water are obstructing governmental administration in the second degree, criminal tampering in the third degree, harassment in the second degree, and disorderly conduct. It says if an officer is injured from spraying, they can charge the individual with assault in the second degree. Second degree. So remember that. That's a felony assault. So back in 2018, the job had your back. The job gave direction. That memo came from a legal opinion from the legal bureau. That's not just somebody saying, hey, this is what I think you should do, right? They sat down, they looked at it, and they said, yeah, this is what the law allows us to do, and this is what you should be doing. And you know what? Few people got locked up for that, and the shit stopped because they saw that if they're going to get stupid, they're going to get arrested.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you get soaked, right? You get wet. You're slower to move. I mean, it's definitely harder to. You're weighted down. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen when you get soaked. Similarly, when you get hit with a snowball, right? You're loss of vision maybe for a little while. You get a little. If you get hit in the head, I mean, obviously you have the ice on your head. That doesn't feel good if you have snow on your face or whatever. So I mean. Yeah, the job definitely needs to give some sort of guidance. I mean, I truthfully, do we need to get even guidance with somebody throwing a snowball at you? To me, it's an assault. That's it. Let's go for it. You want to charge obstructing government administration? Absolutely. They're stopping the police officers from doing their job. So there's a lot of things you can charge them with. I'm still telling you, there's 10 or 11 people. Injuries, it's a riot. Let's go for the gold. Let's charge them with everything. So there's no sense in allowing them to do this. It's disrespectful. It's just wrong. I mean, I don't understand. I don't. What more can I say? I mean, it's bad, and it leads to it's going to lead to other things. If you allow this to go on, it's going to lead to more serious crimes. So.
Yeah, read what Artie said. You're saying exactly what Artie's saying right now.
Yeah. When a city, when a city fails to stand behind its police department, it undermines its stability and sets itself on a path to a decline. And that path is already set, right? They're already on the way to decline. Absolutely, 100%, Artie. Spot on.
And Kevin Mannion, common sense ain't common. Ain't that common?
No.
It's sad. It's sad. And Soylent Green, he got through with a comment. Yo, what's up? Sorry, people. We love our chat. We love our people. EP Joe, we appreciate you just coming on and letting us know you're out there. Hey, to all our regulars, throw an emoji out there. Let us know you're watching. I know. Listen, I know that we have we only have 66 people on YouTube right now. Might be because of the chat, because we have such an engagement. We have a lot of people watching. We have 160 or so watching on X and a few on Facebook. So there's Nike Head coming in saying hi. We appreciate it. 92 Charlie, we appreciate you guys. Right, but again, like you said, at least in 2019 there was guidance. Right, there was some semblance of leadership where the mayor, whether he was disingenuous or not, was out there and making public statements backing the police. The police department came out backing the officers and actually putting out a memo giving directions on how to handle the situation. And then once there was a few arrests, it stopped, right? So it comes down to leadership. So before we even talk about good leaders and everything else and what we think good leaders are, we've spoken about that in the past. We had an episode about it about a year ago. Let's talk about Rob Lukash, Ron Layson. We're the executive on the scene when those old officers start getting pelted like that. What's Rob Lukash doing? Because I guarantee you it's going to be very close to the same as what Ron Layson's going to do.
Well, I mean, at a minimum, I'm calling for level 1 for SRG, and I'm going to start.
Just explain what that is to
the Strategic Response Group, aka old task force. So level 1's going to bring me my local task force. So if I'm in Manhattan, lower Manhattan, I'm going to get SRG 1. If I'm in upper Manhattan, I get SRG 2, and 3 is the Bronx, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to call for that. If I need more manpower, I'm going to go to a level 2 mobilization, right? I'll go as far as I have to go. If it's really that bad, I'll go to level 4. I actually had a level 4 called once when God.
All right.
God rest his soul, man. Jamie Betancourt. I was a platoon commander in a 4-4 on. It still kills me to this day. On Easter Day, when an off-duty police officer, detective Jamie Betancourt, was stabbed to death, and heart-wrenching. But and I just want to say, we talk about leadership. I'll tell you one thing about Chief Ali. Right? Remember, Chief Ali was the chief
Absolutely.
of detectives. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Rest his soul.
yeah. Well, I think he's a scumbag, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I had Jamie Betancourt die in front of me, right? While we're trying to give him aid and get him out to the ambulance. And Chief Ali asked me, how many stab wounds does he have? And I said, I think he has 3. And he goes, well, I counted 4. And he goes, I don't know what high school you went to. I said, that's a scumbag move, man, bro. I just watched a detective die in front of me, and you have the audacity and the balls to say that? You're an asshole. And he's probably still an asshole. So anyway, besides that, I would call levels, whatever levels I would have to get. I would get to all my.
I don't think he's any longer with. I don't think he's with us any longer.
Well, then I'll piss on his grave. Then that's how I feel about him. But anyway, all I'm saying is that I'm on fire today. I'm sorry.
Let me get some fire emojis in the chat for you, Rob.
These snowballs are killing me, man. These are the men and women that we love, the men and women that we were part of, right? The ones we went out to, and they're getting pelted and assaulted, and nobody's showing them any friggin' any respect. And executives, you know what? Get out there and do something about it. All right. If you're a patrol supervisor, you're a platoon commander, a duty captain, a precinct CO, precinct XO, duty chief, get the hell out there and stop that shit. You gotta be kidding me that they'll allow this happening to your police officers. All right. You wouldn't allow it to somebody to throw a snowball at your daughter. All right. I mean, you showed us a beautiful video of your daughters going down the snow mound. What would you have done if these bunch of mopes came up and started throwing snowballs at you and your kids? You would freak out. And that's what I feel these police officers are. These are our family, all right? An extended family. They've always been the family. And I would goddamn go out there and beat the crap out of those people that did that. I'd probably get in trouble for it. I'd replace Eric as the most complained cop. But you know what? I would stop it. I'm sorry. It's wrong. It's bullshit. And it needs to stop right now. And that's my rant.
All right. I'll give you a spot on from Sleepy Joe with the target.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Can't write it. I'll give you a spot on from Sleepy Joe. But yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't know, like I said, where Timmy Boudet went after he made that announcement. He was the chief that, he's always got the bullhorn. And listen, I have no problem with him giving those instructions in the beginning. Go ahead, go have your fun, go do your thing, stay inside the park. Just go. Listen, it's happened in the last 2 years. He's been in the borough the last 2 years. I don't remember there being any incidences in the last 2 years. I don't remember ever hearing about this snowball fight. And I'm sure if he worked at the borough, he knew about these snowball fights, right?
Yeah.
So to say, hey, listen, we're all good. Go ahead. We're good. We're just checking things out. Go in the park. Have a good time. He's being respectful. They're even saying, thanks, officer. Thanks. Great. Those are the good people. Not everybody there were assholes. Not everybody there were knuckleheads. Not everybody there were there with nefarious thoughts and purposes that it turned into attacking police officers, because that's exactly what they did. Hey, toss a snowball once. Okay, whatever. But,
right.
Hit the van as you drive by. All right, who cares? It's like throwing a snowball at a bus, right? It's not the smartest thing in the world, but kids do it, right? I did it. You did it. We all do it, right? That's not what happened here. These officers were attacked. These officers were chased down the street. These officers were menaced with snow and ice. They were attacked and assaulted with snow and ice. And again, I don't want to put blame on the chief. The chief's a friend of mine. I think he's a friend of yours as well. And he's out there every day with bullhorn in hand, out there every day with these public order incidences. And here he's saying, go ahead. The inspector's waving them on. Yeah, get back in the park. Have fun. Have your snowball fight. That's great. And then they leave. So they didn't get attacked, because then the videos absolutely would have showed a chief, an inspector, or any other executive getting attacked. All I saw was the highest rank was a sergeant. And I really can't blame the sergeant that's there with 3 officers for not turning around and taking some sort of enforcement action on a crowd that looked to be 50 deep from what I could see, that are basically chasing them down the street. Get on the radio, call for help, we mobilize at a location, and then we move in and we clear the fucking park out. No, but not one person in there. You don't want to listen, you're getting arrested. Disorderly conduct. You don't want to listen, obstructing governmental administration. I put my hands on you to arrest you, and you flail, resisting arrest. And that's that. That's all there is to it. Throw a snowball, assault, attempted assault, menacing, whatever you want to call it. Throwing ice, throwing all this stuff. Bullshit. Just like you said. Get in there, take care of it. I'm all about, just like you heard me say before, I'm all about people having fun, even having fun with them, but that there was not an interaction. There was not an exchange. This wasn't a PD versus the neighborhood snowball fight. That's not what it turned into. And if it was an all-out PD versus, I would agree that that's not a good thing to do in that situation. I think that there's a differentiation between that crowd and a couple of 5- and 6-year-olds. But I digress. But that is absolutely not what happened. Absolutely not what happened. They were not engaging them. They were allowing them to have their fun. Nobody was complaining that they were being assaulted. Nobody was complaining that they were being harassed. The disorderly 911 jobs came in because people saw a huge snowball flight in the park. They got there. No complainants approached them. Nobody said anybody was hurt. There was some kids on top of the bathrooms. That's a dangerous condition that they have to address as the police. And from my understanding, that's what those officers went to do, is to get them down, tell them, hey, you got to get down off the roof. That's dangerous. Somebody's going to fall. Somebody's going to get hurt. Not that they were throwing snow from up there and that they were committing a crime by doing that. That's not what it was about. They didn't go there to clear that park. And the proof is in the pudding with the video that that gentleman put on X. But once our officers were assaulted, there needed to be an immediate response. Immediate response. Not our detectives will look into it. And again, I'm not going to blame Commissioner Tisch because I don't know how long it took to get to her. I don't know if it was DCPI catching these videos online and then ringing her phone and going, oh shit, we got something going on here. And then reaching out to Boudet or whoever else and trying to find out what's going on. The supervisors and the executives on the scene needed to be supervised. They needed to be in control, give direction, take action, stand up for their officers, and shut the shit down and clear it out, whether the people liked it or not. Like you said, call the level 1 mobilization, bringing local SRG into the scene. If SRG didn't have a ton of people working, because that's another complaint that came out, right? That she's bitching and moaning that there was a lot of E-days because people had 2 feet of snow and they couldn't get to work. All right. It happens. It happens, right? You have to expect that every snowstorm. There's no excusals, but you know, somebody that's buried in, they're going to get delayed. They may not be able to get through. If snowplows don't get down your block, even I got an SUV, I can't get through until they plow, right? So, however, like you said, if there's not enough SRG working in Manhattan South, I'm going to call for additional units from Manhattan North, the Bronx, Queens, whatever the case may be. So
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with what's known as a tactical retreat, right? So so you could also, and you need to assess every tactical decision that you make. So if you're 3 officers and you're walking in, you see a group of 50 people doing stuff, you might not even want to go into that, right? You might want to call for help. You might want to get the supervisor involved right away, get your patrol supervisor, your platoon commander, and start talking about tactics and how we're actually going to address this, because there is no shame in a tactical retreat. I've had emergency service unit members do tactical retreats, okay? It's not, we don't retreat back to the command. We retreat to a safe position, and then we reevaluate, reassess, and then we make our attack. So, I mean, you know, that being said, is you also have to assess, and I'm not blaming the cops for going in there because I probably would have done it too. You think it's a snowball fight? Let me go in there. It's going to be cool. I didn't expect to get attacked, right? So, and the other thing that your point is, you know what? If there's a lack of personnel in your next platoon, they used to hold people over, right? There used to be a 4-hour holdover, and then you tell the next platoon to come in 4 hours early. So if that wasn't done, then that's a shame on operations, because operations should have known what was going on, and operations should have realized that, hey, we're going to have a lack of personnel. We know there's a big snowstorm. Either we hold over or we extend 4 hours and bring people 4 hours early. I mean, a long time ago, we used to bring the midnights in early, and by 8 o'clock that night, most of the snow was over. I think it ended at 4, and 8 o'clock, you were responsible to clean your sidewalk. So if you're responsible to clean your sidewalk, which I find totally bizarre because that's not fair either to the residents of the city of New York. My mother-in-law, who's legally blind, is required to clean her sidewalk in the Bronx 4 hours after a snowstorm. Are you kidding me? With this amount of snow, is that a fair assessment? Absolutely, unequivocally not. And what would happen if they don't? Then sanitation goes by and starts writing tickets and starts writing citations. A ridiculous thing. So, but let's be prepared. We knew the storm was coming. Everybody knew. I knew. That's why I left New York. No, just kidding.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, and it's not like we didn't know. All right. Listen, 2 days before the storm, they're telling us 6 inches. It didn't sound like it was too bad. But the day before the storm, they said, no, this is going to be a whopper. Every model is now saying that we're going to get pelted with anywhere from 18 to 24 to 32 inches here over by JFK. Right?
Crazy.
So there was no ifs, ands, or buts. When I was a cop, if I knew there was a storm, I left early. You got to start digging out early. You might go to work, say, hey, sorry, I got to go to work. I got to get there and go to work before your tour, before the storm. Like you got out of Dodge before the storm started. I used to go to work before the storm starts. If I know it's
right,
going to be
yeah.
bad. Go to
Absolutely.
work early, hang out in the lounge, whatever. Maybe I get signed in early and I get a little extra overtime. Maybe I didn't, and I hung out in the lounge and either got a couple extra Z's or watched TV and hung out until my tour started, and then knew I was going to get held over. Just like you said, whenever there's a storm or bad weather or a bad incident, just like you said, operations notifies the commands. The second platoon, which is the day tour, is held, and you're held until proper manning comes in on the 4 to 12, and you can report to the borough that you have enough personnel to man your 4 to 12s. First of all, that's hardly a practicality on full summer days, right? Let alone now with the storm, because everybody's at such a low minimum manning. But those are, But again, you know what? How much, listen, I knew I had the ethics to know that I had to be at work, and I wanted to be at work, and I needed to be at work. And if I wasn't at work, I'm fucking the next guy that's going to get stuck there, right? I don't think everybody cares as much as they used to when we were cops, to be honest. And again, it's a cultural thing, and it starts at the top. It starts at the top. We're hoping to have a show in the near future about executive leadership and everything else, and bring on a special guest when he comes back from a certain deployment that he's on. Love to have him on. I think it's going to be a great conversation, but it starts at the top. It starts at the top, the leadership, right? You got to listen, guys, get in early, whatever the case may be. You got to make it in. People are going to be late. It's going to happen. Buses and everything else. Listen, the roads were shut. He put in an executive, he declared, excuse me, a state of emergency. 8 o'clock Sunday night. The only people allowed on the road after 8 o'clock Sunday night through Monday afternoon were essential personnel. That's it. And the roads weren't horrible. I live on a secondary street. I don't live on a main street. I don't live on a tertiary street, which is like the real side streets. I live on a secondary street. And I'll tell you, my block was plowed every couple of hours I heard the plow go by. So, and I know it's not like that everywhere. And if the chat was working, I'd be getting lit up right now.
Mhm.
The Bronx, Staten Island, big complaints. You know, John was talking about this morning, and I saw it on the news too. Staten Island, there's a lot of. I grew up in Staten Island. A lot of places on Staten Island that has still, you know, that was still having problems getting paved. Staten Island is, you know, listen. I used to joke around, you know, when you go out throughout the city and, you know, all the blocks are linear blocks, right? Numbered and everything makes sense. And Staten Island, it looks like they spilled a bowl of spaghetti and they made a map out of it. You know, the streets are all over the place. One street's over here and 2 miles down, it picks up again. It's the same street, you know, it's craziness. But, you know, so, and a lot of hills, but there's hills in the Bronx as well. You know, there's some hills in Queens, you know, it's not all flat. But the streets were passable enough that you can get to work, you know, because you didn't have to worry about a million other knuckleheads being out there.
Yeah. I mean,
But
like you
it's
said, though,
responsibility to make sure that you get there and to plan ahead. Listen, we all have families. We all have to take care of our families. And listen, if you have a 2 first responder household, it does become more difficult because I can't just leave if my wife's not here. If she's stuck at work, I don't have somebody that can get to my house to watch my kids. I can't get my kids safely to someplace else, to my in-laws or wherever. But now, as a boss, again, you have to take these things into consideration, right? You have to look at things on a case-by-case basis. Ron Layson, whose wife is a first responder, Rob Lukash, whose wife is a first responder, nurse, cop, whatever, paramedic. They're stuck at work, and now I'm stuck with childcare. Now, childcare is not, you know, an excuse not to be able to get to work. But you still got to take into consideration when you have extenuating circumstances like this, and be a true leader and be able to make those calls on a case-by-case basis. No excusals never means none. It means very little, very few. But people take advantage. Oh, it's really snowing hard out here. I can't get to work. Come on.
listen, when it would snow, right? Especially for the guys that maybe worked in the Bronx or the guys that worked in some of the Queens precinct that may have lived on Long Island, the guys that lived upstate New York, you slept over. And what did you do? You stayed over. After your platoon was done, you probably went to the bar, you drank a few beers, right? There's a, you know, or somebody brought a, you know, filled their trunk up with, you know, alcoholic beverages, adult beverages, and you'd sit by the precinct and you enjoy yourself. Then you go inside. You know what? You couldn't find a place to sleep inside. I remember guys, you know, in the dorm was full, the lounge was full. You know, upstairs in the 4-1, we had the gym. There was a couple couches in the gym that would be full, but you found it and you made it work. And you know what? You're right. If you have children, you have to plan ahead. Absolutely. You know, you want to plan ahead a couple days before. Can your parents do it? You know, can your neighbors watch the kids? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it's all about being an adult and planning it ahead. And to me, if you're a sergeant, if you're a lieutenant, captain or above, you better show everybody that you can get to work. There's no excuse, okay? Because you represent every one of those members, right? You're their supervisor. They're what they look up to, what they see, what they follow. So you represent them. So if you can't get in, if a sergeant bangs in, which means he called in for the day and said, I can't make it in, well, that's bullshit too, all right? You need to get in, all right? And I don't need to hear any excuses, all right? If there was days especially during Sandy, where I didn't come home for a week, for 7 days. I mean, that's a, you know, aberration, but there are, you know, for snowstorms, I would sleep over if I knew it was going to snow, and I had a department car, so you know, 4-wheel drive department car. So could I have driven home and driven back? Yeah, I could have. But first of all, it'd probably be dangerous for me, dangerous for anybody else on the street. So I stayed over, okay? And that's what I did. Did I have my own office? Yeah, I slept in my own office. Okay, but there are dorms there. There are things there that you could do. So I just think you got to plan ahead, be an adult about it, and suck it up. Once in a while, you got to suck it up. Like they say, right? Sometimes you eat the bear. Sometimes the bear eats you. Sometimes you eat the bear. So whatever it is, And like you said, if you can throw a slip in there, Jeff Madry will sign it for you, and you're in.
Listen, heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? You gotta lead by example.
Absolutely.
Lead by example, and this is what I used to always tell all my supervisors: listen, you are the boss. Make a decision, stand by it. Be ready to answer for it, but stand by it. But that's part of it too. Is being able to, like I said, take everything in a case by case basis. Some people you got to say, shut up, get out there, start digging, and get your ass to work. Other people that have legitimate answers, you got to be able to be. We have to be human, and you have to say, all right, I understand. How could you have planned this differently? I don't know. Your wife got stuck at work. Your husband got stuck at work. He works in a 3-2 and he got held over. And now I can't switch over childcare like we normally do, whatever the case may be. So listen, it comes to leadership. And then originally that's what we were really going to talk about was leadership today and what we need in the leaders today to try and shift this culture, because it's going to take, it takes more than just the leaders of the NYPD. I mean, we need legislators. We need, look at this mayor. There's zero support. He's showing zero support for the NYPD right now. It's a bunch of lip service bullshit about how he wants to work with the NYPD, support the NYPD, work with his police commissioner, this and that thing. But then the audacity to look at this and just say it's just kids throwing snow. I just see a snowball fight. That's all it is. Why is everybody making such a big deal? It's a couple of lacerations. A couple of cops went to the hospital with lacerations, but it's a snowball fight that got out of hand. Okay. When somebody's stealing something from the store, they're just taking a little something and putting it in their bag. But when it gets out of hand, it's a robbery. Right? It escalates. A snowball fight is nothing. It's a snowball fight. Tell me with that. Have fun. I should have bought him 100% with that statement. So do you. Go have fun. Stay in the park. But once it gets out of control, it's like that petty larceny, the minor crime of stealing a little bit of something, that when you start fighting with security or staff at the store, it now becomes a robbery. It's no longer a small little thing.
Yeah, I know. And a true leader takes care of their personnel, right? So you have to have, if somebody can't make it in because of whatever issues, you have to understand that. And that's like you said, they'll say no excusals, but you know what? There are exceptions to that. And you know what? If you have to have somebody, another officer that's already there and say, hey, do you want to work the next platoon on overtime? And they say, yeah, I'll do it because I don't want to drive home in this shit. So then they stay. And you know what? Defend it, right? Okay, why'd you give the guy 8 hours overtime? Well, because I gave this guy a person an E-day because they couldn't make it in because they had personal reasons, and that was on me, okay? It's not on them, it's on me. I said it was okay. And you need to take responsibility for your actions, and you need to take responsibility for your personnel, because it's important to show them that you care about them. And you know what? And then just to what Mamdani says, it's funny how he says, "Oh, the PD was out there and can commend them for being out in the snow and everything." That's a bullshit line, because what that is that's to give them the you guys did a great job, but it was just a snowball fight. No, they did a great job, and the police officers got assaulted. How about you say that? How do you have some balls as the mayor and say that and call it for what it is? Okay. And that is leadership. And what you see, what Mamdani does is there a lack of leadership. He defers what he's saying, is going to say, throws a positive point in there, and then gives his roundabout, which is pure bullshit. So he is a BSer. And you know what? He doesn't support the police. It's blatant obvious. And it is throws out these nice words and what they did and all that other crap. But you know what? if he thinks he's smarter than the NYPD police officers out in the street that do the job every day, he's completely foolish, because we know and we can read right through you.
Again, it comes down to people understanding the police culture. He's an activist who's now a mayor.
Yeah.
He's an anti-police activist. Throughout his entire campaign, all his old tweets came up showing all the negativity, all the defund the police, all the anti-police rhetoric. Look at all of the people that he is putting into position, and the problem, some people have to leave because of prior anti-Semitic comments and other anti-police rhetoric. He's putting people on the public safety board or public safety commissions that are blatantly anti-police, that want to totally not just defund, they want to eradicate the police department. They think that there should be a police department. There should not be a police department with guns in the city of New York. It's insane. It's insane. Let's talk about leadership a little bit, right? And what makes a good leader, right? We've gone through this before, right? The 4 C's of leadership, often referred to: competence, character, commitment, and courage, which is seen as essential qualities for effective leadership, fostering strong teams and achieving organizational goals. And leadership is what we've been saying is lacking. If the comments were working, you'd have certain people in there talking about, oh, yeah, it didn't happen around you. You guys were this, but everybody else is that. And you never said anything. Listen, leadership from the top is, we have been saying from the beginning of this podcast just over a year ago, that one of the main problems with the NYPD is the lack of leadership, and it starts at the top. And the fact that leaders, right, are self-promoting themselves and doing things for political gains, political favor, self-promotion, and not doing what's best for the organization, for the members themselves, and for the community we serve.
Yeah, when you put yourself ahead of the team that you're leading, you're no longer a leader. You're just an individual, and all you do is care about yourselves. And I'm like, when I went to the emergency service unit, when I was asked to come there as a patrol captain, I knew that there was no path for promotion. It was highly unlikely, and I accepted the fact. I had tried to get a command, and there were no commands available. And like I've said before in the past, there were people coming from 1PP that never even did a day on patrol, but because Commissioner Kelly said, hey, the only way to get promoted is if you're a commanding officer of a precinct or PSA or transit district, that everybody jumped over and jumped out of the building for a little while, got promoted, and then flew back to the building. How ironic was that? So I went there, and you know what? I met the greatest men and women that I've ever worked for on the job. And my goal was not to get promoted. My goal was to make sure that everything was done right, and that the job was enjoyable, and the men and women of emergency service unit got what they needed. And like I've said in the past, I always felt that the best thing to do is, as a leader, when you get there, is what do you got? What's going on? What have you done so far? And what do you need? How can I help you?
Right.
And that's what you do.
And what's your plan moving forward? And what can I do with that plan?
So I mean, that's what you want to do. I mean, and when I see across the nation, chiefs, not so much police commissioners, because there's only a few, but more so, chiefs of departments, sheriffs, that don't take leadership seriously because they're only concerned about themselves. And that's very disheartening, because what that does is that transcends down to every police officer there, and they know all you're doing is for yourself. Okay. And that is not leadership. No, that is just
No.
caring about yourself, and that's it.
So let's look at these 4 C's. Competence. This refers to a leader's technical skills, knowledge, and ability to effectively perform their role and guide their team. Where do we see, I don't know if it came up here, but it just came up. There it is. Modern Tsunami got through with a super chat. We'll get into that in a second. What have we seen? And we've talked about this at length, right? Or throughout the entire network, right? Nepotism and cronyism. Putting the wrong people in positions that don't have the technical skill, the knowledge base, and the ability to effectively perform the roles that they're put into. Just because they're a certain inspector or they're a certain chief or whatever, doesn't mean that they're good at the position they're put in, right? I always talk about put the right asses in the right seats on the bus to make the bus run smoothly. And that's not what we have seen in the past couple of administrations, where the right asses are not in the right seats. There are some, but the majority are not. It's cronyism and nepotism that is leading this agency. And we see throughout the country some other agencies as well that we're not as intimately knowledgeable of, but you can see in the news when you look at them that the right people aren't in the right roles, even though some of them are elected officials like the Philadelphia sheriff, right? She's an elected official. Obviously, she's not the right person for that role. But, again.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I totally agree with you. The competency, one of the problems I think is, the level of competency is based on promotional exams, right? So, and we've spoken about this in the past, you could have a sergeant exam, a lieutenant's exam, a captain's exam, but that doesn't mean that the person has the knowledge and the ability even to effectively perform that role, right? That means they're either a good test keeper, test taker, or they got lucky, right? Everybody says you got 3 lucky Saturdays, but anyway, that doesn't make leadership. But you know what? You need people there that are, that have the technical skills and the knowledge, or the ability to learn those skills. That's the other thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that a person that came from was a detective and was a squad commander can't be a captain in the detective bureau. But you have to be willing to learn. So that to me is a big part of leadership, is the ability to learn it as well. And then the ability to effectively perform it once you've learned it. So I think learning is important too.
100%. Modern Tsunami, $20. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Thank you, brother.
Police officers have a duty to serve the citizens, not some coward politician. The department needs to stand up for themselves, or otherwise they're doomed, because officers are going to get hurt, not this mayor. God bless. And Chronicles agrees with you 100%, and I think so do we. And we're going to get into some strong leadership in a few minutes, but let's get through these 4 C's because we're 2 hours, 17 minutes into it. And I've been reminded that tonight is the season premiere for Survivor. They're back, Rob. So
all right,
it's a double episode tonight, so it's a 3-hour episode. But let's go to the next C, right? Character. This encompasses the leader's integrity, honesty, and ethical standards, ensuring that they act with purpose and build trust. Oh my God. How does this resonate when you think about the past administrations and some of the current administrations, right? Integrity, honesty, ethical standards, federal investigations, grand juries, indictments. Oh, wait, that's not on there. I forgot, right? And what does all of that do? It builds trust. And when you don't have leaders that have integrity, honesty, and ethical standards, right, and ensuring that they're acting with proper purpose, I'll add proper in there, right? Because some purpose that they're acting on is just personal purpose, right? It destroys trust. And if you don't have trust in your leadership, you have lost your organization. These cops are out there. They're doing God's work every day. They're doing the job that they raised their right hand, swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of New York, right? They're out there doing this to protect and serve because it's the right thing to do, but they're not being led properly. They're not given the proper tools to do their job properly. Just like this incident showed, they weren't given the proper leadership. They weren't given the proper backing because of whatever reason, whatever calls were made, whatever bosses were on the scene, because I'm not going to say leaders, they were bosses by virtue of their rank, that they made a call not to engage this crowd and clear it out and make arrests. And you know what? If you went back, if you, like you said, tactical retreat, right? Tactical retreat to a safe location. We're going to muster up. We're going to get our forces together. We're going to move in. Now, if I can't lock them up, now Commissioner Tish's statement makes perfect sense. Our detectives are looking at the video, they're looking at body-worn camera, they're looking at the Facebook post, the TikTok posts, and all this other shit, and we're going to try to identify these mutts, and we're going to lock them up later. But at least we went in and showed that we're not just a bunch of cowards that are going to run away from kids and young adults throwing snowballs and ice and rocks at us, because we have the ethical standards to stand up for our people. We have the integrity to do what's right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll say to each one of those things, I'll say one word, and this is for the prior administration. I'm not so sure about this current administration, but this current administration is not that much better either. So I'll say leaders' integrity, nope. Honesty, nope. Ethical standards, nope. So there, in a nutshell, is why there's really no trust from the rank and file, to the PC, from the police officers on the ground to, like you said, the bosses, not so much leaders, but bosses. And absolutely 100%. You know what? Like I said, or like you just said, tactical retreat. Let's regroup and then make our attack. Even if they pushed everybody out of the park. Okay. Remember, because of the lawsuits, right? You couldn't kettle people, so you can't surround them. You had to give them means of egress to get out. I would have cleared the whole park. Washington Square Park would have been cleared. It would have been owned by us, and that would have shown enough that, hey, you're out of the park now. That's it. You're done. And you know what? And like you said, now we're going to review the videos and we're going to go after the prosecution. Let the greatest detectives in the world do their job. And that would have easily been done. So, yeah, no, I'm sorry. That it's disheartening what happened.
Yeah, it's terrible. All right, let's look at the next one. Commitment. This involves a leader's dedication to the organization's mission, the organization's goals, and the well-being of their team, fostering a sense of shared purpose. I mean, we're saying the same thing. And Sleepy Joe got another emoji in that we know about, rocket fuel. And promoted with rocket fuel. So Sleepy Joe, you're being good. You're being creative today. So we understand you can only get emojis in. Phil the Heater guy, he's got some kind of hack going on with YouTube, and Phil the Heater guy is getting his comments in. 92 Charlie is able to put in some words now. Maybe it's back. We're back. Sleepy Joe is saying it's back. Mana Samarami, 92 Charlie's great stamina. Modern Samurai, we have been hats, bats, and lots of handcuffs. That's right, 100%. So hopefully we're back. So everybody jump in those chats, start catching up with the chats. But all right, again,
I just want to say one thing with commitment is as a leader, and I always reference the Saving Private Ryan when he said, "Hey Cap, well, what are your complaints?" And he goes, "Private, I don't complain to you. Complaints go up." Right? So you never, if you're a supervisor, if you're a sergeant, you don't complain to the cops, "Hey, this is bullshit. This sucks. This is a wrong thing." No. If you want to complain about something, you tell the lieutenant. All right. Cops, yeah, absolutely. Complain to the sergeants. Give your complaints. Absolutely, 100%. Sergeants, if you want to take the complaints and bring them to your lieutenant, absolutely, go up. But lieutenants got to go. All those complaints go up. Complaints don't go back down. So, you could say I maybe I agree with you or maybe not. But guess what? I'm not going to complain to you about how I'm treated or anybody else. If you want to complain about how you're treated, then complain about it to your boss. That's all. So.
And good choice. You're on fire tonight.
I am on fire today. I am.
We put
I'm
a lot of flames out there tonight for you. But yeah, no, listen, because you know why we're on fire? You know why Rob's on fire? You know why I'm even on fire? Because we care. We care about the cops. We care about the city. We care about leadership, and we're not seeing it. And we're seeing that these cops are being abused. We see that these cops are not being given the resources and the tools. I always said you can't be successful. You can't, no matter what plan you put forth, if you don't give the proper resources and give the cops the ability to do their job, it's not going to get done. But when we're talking about these leadership qualities that don't exist, right, and have been pushed to the side because of political gain and political, politicians running the job, then you lose the rank and file who are out there doing the bare minimum. And you can listen, as somebody who never really tolerated somebody doing the bare minimum, you are always going to get called out on that. I used to have people come in, I got a 3.0 on my evaluation and I'm going to appeal it. All right, explain to me what you did above coming to work and doing the bare minimum. You came to work and you were breathing. You did the bare minimum. So you meet standards. You met your standards, right? But they were doing more than people are doing now. And you really, listen, how much can I even blame people? I've talked about this where I used to, before I left and got hurt, I used to go down and talk to Eric Dim and his team and go, I don't know how you guys are still doing it with everything you're doing, with all the laws that are getting changes and the diaphragm and the bail reform and the CCRBs and all this other bullshit that they were up against. How are you going out there still doing God's work? And their answer was because we care. Because we care about this community that we don't live in, but we serve. So they were not about self-promotion. They were there for a shared purpose to go out and better the community that they served. And they had a good leader in Eric Dim. They had good commanding officers in PSA 7 that gave them the tool, that backed them up, that would fight for them with me when I had questions, and with the borough and the housing bureau and at Comstat, and we would push back and fight for our people because they were doing the right thing, right? So what did that do? That made them want to work because they felt supported. They felt that the leaders were dedicated to the organization's mission, not to Ron Lason's mission of trying to get somewhere and do something else, not to Ron Lason's goals to get myself promoted because I knew it wasn't happening anyway, right? Right? Just like you took your job, you knew you weren't getting promoted, and you were very grateful when it happened, right? And probably surprised like I was when I got those phone calls because I didn't think it was going to happen, right? But it's like I say, my success came from the teams I built. So it was about teamwork. And that comes from this commitment. And you're not seeing it. You're seeing all this self-promotion and just everybody's out for themselves. What can they get for themselves and everything else? It's
No, listen, I'll say that statement's pretty strong, right? So you're talking about involves a leader dedication to the organization's mission, not to your own mission. Okay. And if you do build a strong team and you care about the well-being of the team and you foster that sense of shared purpose, you know what? You will get promoted because people will see that. Okay. It's not about, perception and saying, oh, look how good of a leader I am, or selling yourself or anything else. your promotions will come, but you need to foster it through teamwork. Okay, it's not about yourself. And I always said, and I'm a big advocate of it, is I didn't do anything to get promoted. What I did is I led a team of people that got me promoted. So I have to be thankful to them for all the hard work and dedication that they did, because otherwise I wouldn't have been promoted. All right. And it's easier to lead that team when you have a strong bond with them and a strong dedication to them. And you've said it in the past, and I'll say it again. The best part of getting promoted, to deputy inspector, to inspector, and then to deputy chief was the fact that then now I can push people that helped me get promoted by their dedication and their hard work. I can push them to get promoted and get the right people promoted, the people that they themselves were leaders in their own way, right? There's leaders doesn't mean you have to have 3 stripes on your arm. Okay. You could be a police officer. I've seen some PAAs that are leaders and tell people that, you got to rewrite this 61, which is a complaint report. You got to do things, they got to do this a little better or whatever. So, leaders aren't based upon what they put on their shoulders or on their arms. It's how they lead. And really, you will be rewarded, but you need to be a leader first.
Yeah. But unfortunately not always. And it's also discouraging when you do see the nepotism and the cronyism and watching people fly by you. But, listen, it hurts at first when you're watching the finest message that comes down with all the promotions and everything else. You're like, really?
Yeah.
Really? But then I just gave up. I'm like, whatever. I'm here to do my job. The reason I was successful is because every position I was put into, I gave over 100%, and I did what I had to do to try and make the place better than when I got there, and did that through good team building, putting, I think, the right people in the right spots and moving people around when they weren't in the right spots, and being honest and being open and having the same conversation standing in front of a roll call as I did in a private conversation in a supervisor's meeting or a one-on-one conversation in my office, and also being honest and candid with my bosses. Like Eric says, you have to be able to manage up as well. So,
I was just wanted a Modern Samurai, right? He said they would have promoted Rob because police officers love to work for him, and I really appreciate that. Modern Samurai, I know you're a great man, and you did very well yourself. So, I know when he was at the 2-3, he should have been charged. Not that moron we had as a CO, and that moron, he was dropped in from from another place to get promoted. And right. And once he got promoted, and then that was it. Then he was ready to get out of there. And I told you the story when I was up at Comstat doing a 2-3 impact, and he says, don't say anything that's going to bring me up to the podium. I go, John, are you freaking kidding me? You're the CO of the precinct. Anything I say can bring you up to the podium, you retard. And he never went up to Ron. He never went up to the podium once and still got promoted to DI.
Because he was taken care of. He was one of those chosen ones that they weren't going to bring him up to embarrass him.
And no leadership. No.
So let's look at the last one, courage. This refers to leaders' willingness to take calculated risks. This is what we talked about earlier, right? Even as simple as giving an E-day to the right person. Make difficult decisions. I say that all the time, right? When you're a supervisor and you're a leader, you make the difficult decisions, not the popular decisions. It's like being a parent, and stand up for what's right, even when it's unpopular. Boom. Mic drop. That's what we've been talking about all along.
Yeah.
And
100%.
We're 2.5 hours in. Let's show. You have anything else on that?
No.
I'm gonna forego this other thing. Let's look at what I think. We've seen a million videos. We've shown videos of what we think are poor leaders and people that are there for political gain and pandering and gaslighting, just to not do what's the right thing for the agency and for the members. But let's take a look. There's a police chief in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who's stepping down because he says it's for family. But let's watch. Let's watch and listen to what he has to say.
Drew Robbins, I'm sure other people have seen it too on Facebook, said that there was a lack of, he thinks it would be because there was a lack of clear support from, the Public Safety Committee and the other community leaders. I think he used the word far left. Any truth to that?
So police chief's job gets a lot easier when you're in a city that's just 100% pro-police. If everywhere I go, people are applauding, great job, police department, I'll tell you, that would be a lot easier. I didn't take a job for an easy job. I knew this was going to be a challenge. I didn't know we were going to have all the specific challenges that came about while I was here. I have a lot of colleagues across the country who work in cities that are more reflexively pro-police, and it is easier to get things done. I remember I feel like it was a big fight to get drones, which are just a basic tool of policing now. To jump through so many hoops to get the community support and politician support. I'll throw out one other example. Some of you may remember we had a docuseries come out where I thought it was a positive thing. A lot of people in the city thought it was a good idea to expose the city to a documentary series of what the police department does on a day-to-day basis, because if you're not riding with us, you don't really know, and there's a lot of misunderstanding. So docuseries comes out, and there were people that were mad that it was coming out, not because there was anything wrong with it, but because it showed us in a true light, which is a good light. And that was an odd thing for me. And even some elected officials, criticized us. You can't put out this docuseries because it's making you look good. So when you politicize policing, that's a recipe for failure. One thing I mentioned in Pensacola is show me a city across the country anywhere that is a high-performing, successful city, and I will show you a high-performing, successful police department. Those two go hand in hand, and intelligent politicians understand that. Intelligent politicians who want best for the city understand that. Politicians that maybe are out for themselves to score cheap political points will use policing to score cheap political points. Have I seen that here? Absolutely. Do I think that the next chief is in a position to even take it to the next step so that those voices get quieter and quieter because there's no merit to them? They're just very unserious. Yeah, I think that the next police chief is going to be able to come in here and take this to the next level.
But that's not why you're leaving, right?
There's so many factors, John. If I'm going to boil it down to one thing, it's family. It's the right time to go. 4 years, I think, is good. I keep saying I want to go out on top. We've accomplished so much. It has not been easy.
There's a man with integrity. There's a man who I think follows the 4 C's. Right? He did what he could. He was up against the odds, the politicians. He pushed back, fought back, got what he could get. When he sees it's no longer something he could really do, I think he had to go. Sleepy Joe, another $5. Hardest choice requires the strongest wills. Thanos. There you go. And then you got Phil, the guy saying the Grand Rapids Police Department size of an A house, which is a busy house, about 300 cops. Doesn't matter. He's the chief. He's in charge. He's leading by example. And then,
I thought he's a very good speaker. He's able to articulate exactly, and I love his message inside his speech where he talks about cheap political points. So he brings that in and to understand that, hey, guess what? This is why this is not the full reason why I'm leaving after 4 years because of all my accomplishments, but it's definitely a reason, and I love the way he put that in there. Strong individual. I mean, he would be an asset probably to any department that he went to because you can clearly see that he cares about what his men and women do, and he cares about the perception of his police department. So, as Velez Marlin says, good for him. So absolutely.
That's right. And then we always talk, right? And I say it all the time, policing has to be apolitical. This whole infection of politics into police work. And when we started the show, I said it and I told everybody, I don't want to talk politics. Leave that to John. John's the politician. Eric has become, more entwined in politics as well. Marlon has joined the Finest Unfiltered group. And he's big with, he understands the politics, he understands the finances and geopolitical stuff. Not my thing. Didn't want to talk about it. We have had absolutely no choice but to talk about politics because it has so infected the policing in America. It is terrible the way that politics has infected the police. The police department is supposed to go out there, do their job, protect and serve, work with other agencies for the betterment of the community. And everybody wants to be political. So the new Maryland governor comes into office, and the first thing he does is he signs an executive order that says that nobody in Maryland, none of the jurisdictions in Maryland are allowed to interact with ICE anymore in the field and work with them. So the 7 counties, I don't know how many there are, but I believe there's 7 counties in Maryland, and all the sheriffs got together and had a press conference. So to me, again, this is leadership. This is the leaders of those 7 county sheriffs, agency heads coming out to say politics don't belong in policing. It's going to harm the community. And they're telling their community, they're telling their agency members that we don't agree with this. Listen, there's laws that you have to abide by that you don't agree with, but you need to stand up and you need to speak out against it. So let's take a quick look at that.
The abolishment of the 287G program is not the abolishment of ICE.
So the 287G is basically the agreement to work with ICE. So he's making them like a sanctuary city, state, where they're no longer statewide allowed to work with ICE. Oops.
They're going nowhere. In fact, they're going to intensify their efforts. We warned them this was going to happen, and it's going to happen.
A warning on Wednesday issued by sheriffs from the 9 Maryland counties forced to end active partnerships with ICE under a new state law.
It is the biggest betrayal to law enforcement and public safety that I have ever seen.
There will be people missed. And that is my concern. There'll be people missed and who will be re-released into our communities who pose a threat.
The legislation signed by the governor Tuesday abolishes 287G agreements with ICE.
Mark my word, you will see a dramatic increase in the presence of ICE in this state.
And why is that? Because now you're taking away the ability of these local sheriff's offices in these 7 counties to notify ICE when they have somebody with a detainer in custody. So instead of coming in a controlled environment and picking up these people that are wanted on federal warrants, so to speak, right? It's a detainer is somewhat of a warrant, and removing them for deportation hearings, they're going to have to go out and find them. So what happens? Now they're going to go out and you're going to have an increased presence because now you have to have teams. Whereas if Ron Layson has a detainer warrant on me and I get locked up and Rob Lukash calls up ICE and says, hey, I got Ron Layson in custody, 2 agents from the local office come down, pick me up, and take me in.
Wait,
Right?
can you still do the podcast from jail? Because I don't know how to produce.
We'll get Jack back.
No.
So now that's gone. So now what has to happen is now you have to have teams to come in to go out and pick these people up off the street. And then you have things like that happen in Minnesota where these teams are going to get interfered with, and you have to bring other agencies in to protect the teams of ICE agents that are out to pick up the people on detainers, because the local law enforcement is not allowed to interact with them because it would be considered assisting in immigration removals. It's terrible.
And we said it on this show, right? I remember John Latanzio and you and I both had mentioned it, and a couple other people in the chat. Hey, you want to quell a little bit of ICE there? You know what? Let them do the retainers, because this way their concentration is in the courts, and that's what they're more familiar with, and that keeps your neighborhoods the way these Democrats want. You know, they don't want the ICE people rolling around. So we saw what happened in Minnesota, and this is a way. Hey, you why not cooperate? Why not give the ICE what they need if they've somebody arrested a violent felony or whatever misdemeanor, or somebody that shouldn't be here is illegal and committed a crime, and they're held on a retainer? Let ICE take them. What's the big deal? I don't understand that. Now we're not even doing that. I mean, come on, This is bullshit politics. You know, blue states. It's ridiculous. It's just gonna. And I totally agree with what the sheriff had mentioned, that you will see an increase in ICE and you will see an increase in crime then, because now they're just gonna commit those crimes. They don't care. There's no repercussions. They're gonna be. I'm sure they probably a no bail or whatever bullshit there too. So
right, that's the whole thing. There's going to be more crime because we're not removing them from society.
Yeah.
Even if when they get arrested, they're being put back into society to commit more crimes, and then they get emboldened, like you said, because hey, I got in, they let me go. They didn't call the feds.
Yeah, I'm good.
They released me, right? And then, like Phil Hina says, cities and states that have act as sanctuary cities areas should be defunded by the federal government. A lot of law enforcement funding comes from the federal government. Well, Trump said he's going to do that. He was supposed to do it as of February 1st, but I don't know what happened with that. But and here the lack of cooperation with ICE has also encouraged attacks on the NYPD, snowballs, etc., because they just see it. You're right. The snowballs have anything to do with ICE. That guy's comment was ridiculous. It had nothing to do with anything. These people in Washington Square Park did not think that uniformed NYPD officers were ICE. They weren't screaming about ICE. But watching all the rhetoric on social media, on TV every night, is emboldened these people to have no respect for law enforcement. And that's the problem.
Absolutely. Yep. That's all they're showing them. Show them they don't care, and why should you? So, yep.
So
I just want to address one comment that Modern Samurai said earlier. It was about 1940.
I didn't want to hit that one
because he mentioned it about there was somebody that was wanted for a felony, and our good friend John Pernell was so pissed off that they were charging him with.
I didn't put it up because he named somebody, but you just threw it out there anyway.
Yeah, he named him. So and Pernell wanted to be a misdemeanor because he couldn't take the felony assaults. That's what I battled every day. It was like there was grand larcenies coming in, and he would be like, "No, we can't take that." And it was such a I don't know, a shuffle game with him. So it was terrible. But anyway, that's a little different what we're talking about. But 100%, yeah, that talks about leadership. You know, which it was lack of. And now you have sheriffs finally standing up for what's right and taking care of that. We are law enforcement, right? So we are responsible to enforce law. And you know what? If somebody's held because they violated ICE's rules and regulations and law, then so be it. Hold them on a retainer and let the ICE take them. Why would you want, as a law enforcement officer? I've said this in the past. If they want to put the National Guard, they want to put, the state police, if they want to do this, that's all help. Hey, I don't care. All right. Our job is to protect, serve, make people safe. So guess what? You want to give me help? Absolutely. Bring it on. So
what you're saying here is that we're supposed to follow the law.
I think so.
Really? All right. So let's just close this out real quick. We're not going to get into a big discussion about it. I just think it's a little comical, right? We're talking about all this snow and everything else, right? So it came up last night in the State of the Union, and it's been thing, right? The Save America Act, right? And this is basically where they want to have you use, you have to have voter ID, identification for voter ID. And a lot of politicians are saying that it's discriminatory because people of color can't get ID. That just blows my mind, But so the leadership of the Conference on Civil and Human Rights, along with 130 other organizations, including the Black to the Future Action Fund, Black to the Future Action Fund, and Black Voters Matters Action Fund, wrote a letter to Republicans lawmakers criticizing the bill. Rules such as the proof of citizenship requirement aren't necessary to guarantee secured elections, right? Because they say, what do they say? They say, oh, but you have to sign an affidavit swearing that you are who you are. People lie. Really? Oh my God, they lie, right? So they would do nothing more than exclude eligible voters, particularly Latino, Black, Asian Americans, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders, and Native American citizens, married women who have changed their names. And that is difficult because I know somebody that's going through it. They got notified from the Board of Elections in a southern state that they had to now show how they got from their birth certificate name to their current name, and they've been married twice. So they had to show marriage certificate, divorce certificate, marriage certificate. So it's difficult because not everybody has that stuff, but it's doable, right? And low-income people and people with disabilities from the electorate and our democracy. So again, don't want to get into this whole political point, just that the Dems are all saying that it's racist to require identification to vote.
Wait, I want go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Is there a comment you
I
want
was
to
going to say what Phil the Heater guy brings up at 1955.
Oh,
is
wait,
just remember.
I'm going to get.
Wait, but hold on. I just want to make a point. Is that they needed 2 forms of ID, right, to shovel snow, and you know what Mamdani said? He said,
I got it right here. I got it right here. I got the video.
Federal law. Federal law.
I got the video.
All right, go, man, go.
We
only got 3 minutes. We only got 3 minutes before.
Well, she'll have to miss it.
Oh my God, Mom! It's not me. It's Ron did that.
Are
Mom.
criticizing you for requiring workers to bring multiple forms of identification to sign up for that job. They tweeted, quote, "Let's get this straight. In Zoran Mamdani's socialist utopia, it takes 2 forms of ID to shovel snow, but no ID to vote. Make it make sense," unquote. What's your response to that, sir?
Well, here in New York City, we follow the law, and it's federal law to require certain forms of identification in order for someone to actually be paid for this kind of a job. And so that's what we're asking for, 2 forms of identification. It's a long-standing city program. It's a long-standing city policy.
Donnie's socialist utopia, but
federal
no
law. We follow the law.
What's your response to that, sir?
The law when NYPD.
Well, here in New York City, we follow the law. And
I love it.
Follow the law, and it's federal law.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, here in New York City, we follow the law, and it's federal law to require certain forms of identification in order for someone to actually be paid.
Here in New York City, we follow the law, the federal law. Unless we don't like the law, like ICE detainers, then we don't call it a law. Then it's not federal law.
Yeah. Or police officers get assaulted. We don't follow the law.
We don't follow the law. We follow the law.
Oh, not that law. This law.
No, not that law. This law. That's it. That's why I was trying to cut you off. So I wanted to show the video.
I know. I was agreeing with Phil the Heater guy, and I remember that guy. I remember seeing that video, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's unbelievable that he even said that."
I had to chop it once I got it. All right. Anything on that? Because we are at 2 hours and 55 minutes, so we're hitting the 3-hour mark in a couple of minutes. We're going to lose at least one viewer for the Survivor thing. So let's go real quick into Ask an Executive. This is when Ron and Rob answer questions from the chat. Now that the chat's back up, we can actually do the segment. If anybody has a question on or off topic, throw it in there, because a lot of times people don't have the access to an inspector and a chief. So you have a retired inspector, retired chief here, willing to answer questions on or off topic. Let's do a real quick one. I'm sorry. We apologize. The chat was down for most of the show. It's back up right now. So if you have any questions, ask them to us. And also, if you don't want to ask a question, Mom says good night. If you ask a question, if you want to ask a question offline and you want to remain anonymous because you can't get on here because you're an active member of the service or you have family members that are active and you're a little nervous, we completely understand. So you can either DM us on X at Exec Perspective. The DM is open to all. Or you can email us at theexecutiveperspective@gmail.com. So any questions in the chat?
Philly Heat has got a question, but he says we don't have to answer.
Where is it? How much?
$2,000.
How much is the pension for a chief? You don't have to answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the Chiefs are making what upwards around now 240, 260, right? So half of that plus all the 160ths that they all attain. So I mean, listen, it's not the best, it's not the worst. So
yeah, when I heard. So how about a chief who's getting 3/4 after serving 30 years, even though the line due to injury is 20 years old for retirement? Yeah, well, that becomes astronomical because you start, it's not just 3/4 of your salary. You have things called 160ths that are added on after 20 years, and night differential that I'm sure he was at full night differential before he left, and other things that are added on, and there's no taxes. So that's an astronomical number. So
I think he's making like 30,000 a month.
It's got to be close.
So yeah,
it's got to be close.
And he said that. I that's not something we've said. I think he said it in some of his tweets or whatever. So
on Thursday and Friday nights, very late
at night when the bar's about to close. Yes.
All right. So Delray 53 always in here. Delray, get involved during the show, brother. Come on, you always got good questions at the end. Get into the chat. Get involved during the show. As a CO, if a UMLS, which is uniformed members of the service, put in for a detail, did you ever not sign off because you wanted to keep them because they were an asset to the precinct? Did you ever sign off to get rid of an unproductive MOS? We've answered this question in the past. I'm not sure if it was you that asked. I'll go first, and absolutely not. I was never a selfish commander. I always wanted to promote, and Rob and I talk about it all the time, and we talked about it earlier tonight. In leadership, always wanted to promote upward movement of our members. And the way you do that is to have a farm team, right? It used to be conditions, goes into anti-crime, goes into the squad, or goes someplace else, or somebody that does really well on patrol, even if they wanted to go someplace else but didn't want to work in a detail within the command. You don't hold back your workers. You don't do that. I'm sorry. It's just, you have to develop the talent the best you can and then move them on and allow them to move on, spread their wings, and enhance their career. That's part one. Part two, did you ever sign off to get rid of an unproductive MOS? Absolutely not. I would not do it. I was always very honest. If somebody did not deserve it, when you say unproductive, it means that somebody comes to work and doesn't do their job. It's not about numbers. It's about coming to work, not doing your job, not doing the tasks that are assigned to you. And I would not sign off on those. And I've even gotten phone calls from chiefs and said, hey, Ron, so-and-so is going to come in and see you. I'm like, all right, chief, let me ask you a question. Is this like your son? Is this your nephew? Or is this like your landscaper's kid or your neighbor's friend's kid? Because this is what the person is like, and they really don't deserve to go anywhere. Okay, Ron, I'll call you back. And 99% of the time, I never got a phone call back, and that person never came to see me.
So I'll take the first part of the question. If you have a uniform member of service that puts in for detail and they are a really good worker, you should never, ever, ever not sign off on them, because what message are you sending? That's ridiculous, you know. And an unproductive guy, you have to remember that I'm putting my name on the paper, so you have a reputation to maintain as well. So when I do need a favor or when I want to get somebody in there that's really good, they're gonna be like, hey, you just sent us this tool bag that has absolutely do nothing, and we put them in because of your name. You're right. And that's why I would never do that. I would only put people in that I trusted. And I always go back to Terry Tobin, who was a great person and a great chief. And she sent me a person and she goes, Rob, can you do anything about this person to get into ESU? And I looked at the resume. The guy was like a Marine combat veteran. He had gone to all these courses, had done PADI certification, everything. I go, Chief, you didn't have to call me for this one. This guy was getting in anyway because of all his great capabilities. But hey, it's good that you push. And what you want to do is you want to push for the right people for the right spot. And
yeah, 100%. Like you said, bring up another great Terry, and I've spoken about her as well, Terry Shortell. When she was the chief of gang, she called me up when I was a CO to 110 and said, Ron, these 4 people put in for gang. Who am I taking in what order? Because I'm taking all 4. And I told her, you're going to take this person first, even though they don't have the most seniority because they're the better out of all 4. Then this person, then this person, this person. No problem. Just if you could give me a heads up so I know, because then I'm going to have to refill my crime team. I also lost 3 crime sergeants in a matter of 6 months. They're not easy to replace. But I'm not going to hold back a guy or a girl who's out there doing God's work, answering the call, and handling the conditions of your command because they want to move on to bigger and better things. The grass isn't always greener, but they wanted to move on to bigger and better things. And I always never had a problem picking up a phone and calling somebody and saying, this person's coming in for an interview. They're good people. And I would always tell the cop, you're going there. You got my recommendation. I made a phone call. It's on you to go there and present yourself as a professional police officer, tell your story, and when you get there, it's on you. I don't ever want to hear, oh, that's Lason's guy, because I will pick up the phone and won't take that type of phone call and stick up for you. If you go there and think that you're going to work off of my name, it's not going to happen. The reason that you're going there is because you made a name for yourself. And I'll go back to what Joe Fox said. It's not always who you know, it's who knows you. So the fact that you became known to me and I'm able to help you, that helps you in your career.
I have a really good Terry Shortell story. I had gone down for, the bosses put you in for interview for promotion, right? So I had gone down and Chief Tuller at the time, I believe he was Manhattan North at the time, the chief of the borough. And he was in charge of, the interview process. So I did the interview and he had told Whedon that, Rob did really well, but I don't get to pick who gets promoted. It's just the way it is. That's what he said. So now I go for an interview and Terry Shortell is the chief in charge of the interview board. So I do the interview. I leave. I go back to the SOD and Whedon calls me. He goes, you must have did really well because Terry Shortell just told me you did outstanding. And she literally from after my interview went right up to the PC and said, you got to promote this guy at the next promotion ceremony. And I was promoted to full inspector the next promotion ceremony. So a stand-up woman, a great person, and she did a lot for the job. I have 100% love for her, believe me.
All right, I've told this story too since we're telling Terry Shortell stories. I got promoted to inspector also because of Terry Shortell, because she was sitting down. I didn't have to do an interview. we had to do the resumes and send in our resume and send in an application saying we want to get promoted, right? And she was sitting in charge of the board that was reviewing the promotions to inspector. And everybody on the board is looking at all the precinct COs, making their recommendations. Who's going to go into band 1, which means you're going to get promoted, band 2, which means you're probably going to get promoted, and band 3, which means you need more development. But hey, as Tucker said, sometimes shit happens, right? So Terry Shortell stops the meeting, and I heard this from 2 people in the meeting, and says, wait a minute, why aren't we looking at somebody like Ron Layson, whose application I have in front of me? Look at all the things on his resume, the things that he's done and what he's been successful at. Why aren't we considering him? Because he's not a precinct commander anymore? Because now he's at the borough? Because he did 3.5 years in the 110 precinct and it was time to move on? And he wasn't going to get they didn't want to put him in a 3rd command because he's already run units and 2 different precincts? Why aren't we considering them? And she changed their mindset as to not just who's in command now and deserves to get the bump, but hey, what about the guys that have done it, missed that window, but still deserve it? And because of her, I got promoted as well. So God bless you, Terry. Love you. Thank you. Big Hamza, do you think there'll be a blue flu coming up because of the Snowball incident? I don't think so. I think the days of the blue flu are over. Blue flu, for those who don't understand it, is when cops pretty much start calling in sick as a job action because the Taylor law, you can't strike because you'll lose 2 days pay for every 1 day that you're out.
I don't think there's enough unity right now either.
Sleepy Joe wants to know who gets in trouble more often, PO females or PO males? I'm going to say PO males because there's more of them.
Yeah, I always see PO males. I mean, once in a while, a female will get in trouble. Mostly it's males, definitely.
Actually, we have POTs now. Police officer Dave Ends. Philly guy. The best way for a boss to get hated is to obstruct the good cop's transfer because the boss doesn't want to let him go. It's horrible for morale. It's horrible for morale. How do you get other people to want to work when somebody's busting their ass and wants to move on to bigger and better things and you don't allow it? So that means the next person below them is like, why bother? So I agree with you.
You don't want to ask Ace, what was he?
Nah, I wasn't gonna.
No, okay.
I mean, it's off topic, but I have a question. Should rap music become illegal or banned, at least from FM radio? It's clearly used as a brainwashing tool to turn teens into domestic terrorists. I don't even know how to answer that. Music is music. It's an art. Take it for what it's worth. If there's hate speech in it, it shouldn't be aired.
Yeah, I mean, if there's hate in it, it definitely shouldn't be there. But then again, what is hate speech? That's not really illegal, right? So everybody has the First Amendment right to free speech. So I don't know if you could actually take it away, and you would have to prove that it's actually, turning these teens into domestic terrorists. So it's a pretty tough question there.
Yeah. All right. So follow us on X at the Executive Perspective at Exec Perspective. And check out the website at www.thefinestunfiltered.com. I believe it's back up. So let's end it there. Let me get rid of that. And say thank you to everybody in the chat today. Any final words before we get out of here? We're 3 hours and 8 minutes in and a lot longer than I thought this was going to go.
Yeah. The Survivor's on. Did you do this? Do you want to do the super chat? So I know you read them out during the show. So
yeah, I was going to do it after your final comments, but I'll do it. Yeah. So 516 Diecast hit us up at 1:28 in the morning. I didn't see him, but chat was down for most of the show. So PFD, President for Duty, Chief and Inspector, you are both spot on. So we appreciate you. 516 Diecast, thank you for the super chat. $199. Modern Samurai, once again, $20. Appreciate you. Have duty to serve the citizens, not some coward politician. Agree with you. Couldn't agree with you anymore. The department needs to stand up for themselves. Otherwise, they're doomed because officers are going to get hurt, not this mayor. God bless. God bless you too, my brother. Sleepy Joe, two super chats today, 511. So he's a suspended driver license there. Sadly, from the point of view of a Mamdani voter, he's doing exactly what they elected him to do: crush the NYPD and protect all the recids. And YouTube censored him from saying perps and criminals. And then another one is the hardest choice required, the strongest wills from Thanos. Thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate all of this. Terry Manane, appreciate you. And always reminding everybody to hit that like, share, and subscribe. We're at over 122,000 subscribers, like I said at the beginning. So please hit the like, share, and subscribe on your way out. And also, if you're watching, I'm not sure if you can do it during the live, but if you go back after or even during the live, once you hit the like, it'll come up where you could hit. Let me see if I can do it. Just so you know, if you hit the
Hey,
like,
Jamar, so real quick, I'm just going to say, everybody be safe out there. Be careful. You know, your friends, your family, yourselves that are on the job. Assess each situation before you enter it. You know, take time. Use your tactical and situational awareness, and be careful because you never know what's going to happen. We see the officers that responded there. I think it's AKA routine job. It's just going to be fine. A couple people throwing snowballs and they end up getting pelted and hurt. We don't want that. We don't want to see police officers hurt. So just watch each other's back and be careful and just, use your tactics, use your training, use your sixth sense, as we say, right? When the hair on the back of your neck starts to stand up, it's probably an indication that something's not feeling right. So, and Phil, the heater guy, thanks for fixing the boiler. He said he was a little late today because he had a real heat emergency. Go Phil. Appreciate you.
Then we got a last minute, another one from Modern Samurai. God bless you, brother. For the Savior Snack Fund, a Survivor Snack Fund, the Survivor Snack Fund. Everybody be safe. May God bless you all during this Lent and Ramadan. Yes, 100%. For those celebrating, whatever you celebrate. And again, when you hit the like, I don't know if you can do it during the live show. I don't see it. But after the show is live, if you can go back into YouTube, hit the like. Once you hit the like, where the live chat is, you can swipe over usually, and it'll say hype this show, hype the podcast. That brings us up in the algorithm, so you can hype us. That would be appreciated. So let's go with tomorrow. No, I'm sorry, on Friday. Friday, you'll have the New York's Finest Tried Unfiltered podcast with John, Eric, and Marlon, and they will have a conversation. I'm sure going to go deeper into the Snowball incident. They touched on it today, and John's put out a couple of videos on it on X. Check out his X to follow John on X. He always has a lot of good information he puts out there. And go back and watch today's show where they had Brandon Castro, who is a Queens resident for New York State Assembly. That was a good interview. Young guy, up and coming. So give him some love. Go back and watch that show again. And like I said, at the end, they gave their perspective briefly on the Snowball incident. Then they'll be back on Monday, 08:05. John, Eric, and Marlon, as always. And then on Tuesday at 7:05 p.m., that's 19:05, the 10-4 Tavern with Tom Joyce, Pete Fuselli. Always great guests from around the country. Go back and watch last night's show if you didn't see it. Chief Mike Fanning from the Pawleys Island Police Department in South Carolina. He's gone from the United States Transit Police to New York City Transit Police to the hostile takeover, as they say. And then he became a sergeant special assignment in charge of the hate crimes task force and was a member of the elite hostage negotiations team. He talks about transitioning to a beach community from the NYPD. Another great show. Go back and check that out for the 10-4 Tavern. Always a great show with Tom and Pete. And then we'll be back next Wednesday at 5:05 p.m. with the next episode of The Executive Perspective. So until then, everybody, be safe. Thank you very much.